Welcome to Level 1 to 100 Thought Experiments. This isn't a test, it's not a ranked list of brain teasers. It's a journey from the familiar edges of everyday curiosity to the strange, swirling depths of ideas that bend the very concept of reality. Each level doesn't necessarily get harder in the way a math problem might. Instead, they grow more complex, more abstract, more unsettling, or simply more mind-bending. Some experiments are moral puzzles. Others are metaphysical. Some will make you question what's real. Others might make you question who is doing the questioning. By level 1, you'll be smiling at a simple scenario. By level 100, you may not know where you end, and the thought begins. You don't need a background in philosophy, just curiosity and a willingness to let go of certainty. So take a breath, relax, and prepare to travel through 100 levels of thought that just might change how you see the world and yourself. Let's begin. Level 1, the experience machine. Imagine there's a machine perfectly engineered that can give you any experience you want. You simply plug in, and for the rest of your life, you live inside a simulation so vivid, so rich in sensation, that you'd never know it wasn't real. You could choose to be a famous artist, a heroic explorer, a beloved leader, or someone who spends every day in pure joy surrounded by people who adore you. Every possible pleasure and meaningful experience is available. And you wouldn't remember ever plugging in. Outside the machine, your body lies still in a pod, your brain being stimulated by advanced computers. But inside the simulation, you live a full life. It feels exactly like reality. There's no glitch. No hint that anything is artificial. The highs, the lows, the struggles, the triumphs, all feel authentic. You fall in love. You make mistakes. You learn. You grow. You feel pain, and you overcome it. You feel alive, but none of it is real. Not the people you love. Not the accomplishments, not the suffering you endure, or the meaning you think you found. It's all programmed. And here's the question. Would you plug in? This thought experiment, proposed by philosopher Robert Nozick, isn't just about technology or simulation. It's a question about what we value. If all that matters is pleasure or satisfaction, then the experience machine should be irresistible. Why not choose a perfectly crafted life if it brings more happiness than the messy, unpredictable real world? But many people hesitate. Some even recoil. Why? Maybe it's because we value truth over comfort. Maybe it's because we want our lives to be connected to a reality beyond our own perception. Or maybe it's because part of what makes experiences meaningful is that they're earned, not delivered. There's something strange about knowing that your best friend, your greatest achievements, your deepest lessons were written into a code before you ever felt them. And what about the people you leave behind? Are you abandoning the real world, its problems, its people, its potential for a fantasy? Level 2, the lost wallet dilemma. You're walking down a quiet street when you spot a wallet lying on the sidewalk. There's no one around. You pick it up. Inside is a driver's license, several credit cards, and $500 in cash. You now face a decision. Return the wallet exactly as you found it. Return it, but keep the cash. Or keep the whole thing and walk away. You know who it belongs to. Their address is just 2 blocks away. Returning it is easy. But you start thinking, maybe this person is wealthy. Maybe they wouldn't even miss the money. Maybe this is a chance to get ahead, just a little. On the other hand, you wouldn't want someone to keep your wallet if the roles were reversed. Then your mind shifts. What if this is a test? A hidden camera social experiment? What if someone's watching? Would that change what you do? And if it does, were you ever moral to begin with, or just afraid of being caught? You consider another possibility. Suppose you really need the money. Rent is due. Groceries are running low. Maybe taking the money is wrong. But isn't feeding yourself, right? Would you be more moral for returning it? or more human for keeping it? Now flip it. Imagine the owner of the wallet is someone you despise. Maybe they hurt someone you care about. Would that make it easier to keep the cash or even feel justified in doing so? And if so, does morality depend on how we feel about others? Or suppose the wallet belonged to someone famous, a billionaire. Does that make any difference? If it does, what does that say about your sense of justice or your envy? The wallet doesn't speak. The money doesn't beg. The owner doesn't know you have it. But the moment has weight. Not because anyone else is watching, but because you are. Because your future self may remember this moment, may judge you, may even be shaped by what you choose to do. So the question lingers. What would you do with the lost wallet and why? Level 3, the drowning child. Imagine you're walking through a park on your way to work. You're dressed nicely, freshly ironed shirt, polished shoes, maybe a new coat. As you pass by a shallow pond, you notice a small child flailing in the water, clearly struggling, clearly drowning. There's no one else around. You're the only one who can help. The water isn't deep. You won't drown. You won't be hurt. But your clothes, they'll be ruined. Your morning disrupted. Your day changed. Maybe your whole week. Do you jump in? Most people don't hesitate. Of course you do. Of course you ruin your shoes. Of course you save the child. Because how could you not? A life is at stake. It would be unthinkable to walk past and do nothing. But here's the twist. Every day, children just like that one are dying from preventable causes. From diseases with cheap cures, from lack of clean water, from hunger. And you could help them right now, without even leaving your home. A small donation less than the cost of that ruined coat could save a life. And yet, most people don't do it. So what changed? The child in the pond is right in front of you. You can see them, hear them. The urgency is visceral. But the child across the world? They're abstract. A number, a headline. Out of sight, out of mind. And yet, the moral math is the same. The drowning child forces us to confront a discomforting question. Why does distance dull our compassion? Why do we treat suffering we can see as more real than suffering we can only imagine? And if we accept that the child in the pond deserves saving, can we truly say the faraway child doesn't? Level 4, the scripted room. You enter a strange room. On the desk is a thick book written in a language you don't understand. Beside it, there's a second book filled with instructions, written in your native language. These instructions tell you exactly what to do with the unfamiliar symbols in the first book. If you see symbol A, write symbol B. If you see B, write C, and so on. You're told to read the instruction book carefully, follow it precisely, and then slide your output through a slot in the wall. You do this. You don't know what any of the symbols mean. You don't know what the person on the other side of the wall is seeing. But to them, it seems like they're having a conversation in their language with someone who understands perfectly. They ask question, and you, following the book, provide a flawless answer. From their point of view, you're fluent. But in truth, you don't understand a single word. This is the Chinese room, a thought experiment proposed by philosopher John Searle. It's a challenge to the idea that a machine simply by following rules can truly understand language. Because in this case, you're doing exactly what a computer might do, manipulating symbols based on formal instructions, but you have no understanding, no awareness, no consciousness of meaning. So, if a computer can pass the Turing test, fooling someone into thinking it's human, does that mean it understands? Or is it just a sophisticated version of you in the scripted room, blindly following rules? And deeper still, is understanding the same as processing? Is meaning something that can emerge from pure syntax? Or does true consciousness require something more? Some inner light? Some awareness? Some feeling? And if so, what is that thing And where does it live? Level 5, the lazy genius. Imagine a person of extraordinary intelligence. They can solve complex equations in seconds. They understand deep philosophical texts on a first read. They possess boundless creativity and near-perfect memory. A true genius. Now imagine, they do nothing with it. They work a simple job. Spend hours watching TV. Avoid challenge. Shun ambition. They live comfortably but make no effort to contribute, create, or even share their brilliance. They could change the world, but they don't. Now ask yourself, are they wasting their potential? Most people would say yes. It seems tragic a mind so capable, used for nothing remarkable. But then the thought expands. What if they're happy? What if they've chosen peace over pressure? What if they simply don't care to impress anyone? Should intelligence come with responsibility? Is brilliance a gift or a burden? Flip it around. Suppose someone of average intelligence works hard every day, teaches, writes, serves others, or builds something of value. They struggle, they fail, they try again. Who has lived a more meaningful life? Is potential measured by what you have or by what you do? And do we owe the world our gifts? Or is it enough to simply live quietly, contentedly without striving? At the heart of this thought experiment lies a question. Is it wrong to waste brilliance, or is that idea itself a form of societal pressure? Level 6, Mary's room. Mary is a brilliant scientist. She lives in a black and white room. She's never seen color, not because she's blind, but because the world around her is entirely grayscale. Yet through books and lessons, she learns everything there is to know about color. She studies the physics of light, the biology of the eye, the neuroscience of perception. She knows exactly how the wavelength of 650 nanometers corresponds to what people call red. She understands how cones in the retina respond, how signals travel to the brain, how emotions might be triggered. She knows it all, but she's never actually seen red. Not once. Then one day she steps outside, and for the first time, she sees a red rose. The color floods her eyes. A sensory experience she's never had, something vivid, immediate, unmistakably different. And here's the question. Did she learn something new? Because if she did, if seeing red gave her knowledge she didn't already have, then it seems like there are some things you can't learn from facts alone. Some things that require experience. Some truths that live not in data, but in consciousness. Hello, this is the Mary's Room thought experiment, proposed by philosopher Frank Jackson. It's a challenge to the idea that the mind is just brain, that consciousness is merely computation. If Mary knew everything about color and still learned something upon seeing it, then there must be more to the mind than just physical processes. There must be qualia, the raw feel of experience, the redness of red, the sweetness of sugar, the pain of a headache, things that can't be measured or explained, but only felt. So we ask, can science ever fully explain consciousness? Or will there always be a gap between knowing about experience and actually having it? Level 7, the diner tip dilemma. You're at a diner. The meal is over. You reach for the check. You've calculated the tip, a standard 20%. But just before you leave the money on the table, you glance around and realize something odd. There are no cameras, no staff watching, no one else in the diner. Even the cashier is distracted. If you just paid the bill and left no tip, no one would know. And here's the twist. You're never coming back. You're just passing through. There will be no consequences. You're not hurting the server directly. They've already walked away. You're not breaking any laws. So the question becomes, do you still leave the tip? And if you do, why? Is it because of the principle, a habit, a social norm? Or is it because you feel a sense of moral obligation, even when no one's watching? What does it mean to be ethical in private? This is a test of character. a window into the kind of person you are when the world isn't looking. Do you act morally because of external pressure or because of an internal compass? And what if the situation changed? What if the server had been rude? What if the service was poor? What if the food was late? Would that change your answer? Now flip it again. Suppose you leave a generous tip and the server never sees it. Another customer grabs it before they return. Did your actions still have value? Or is goodness tied to outcomes, not just intentions? The diner tip dilemma asks, when we strip away social rewards and punishments, what's left of morality? Level 8, the value of art forgery. You're standing in a museum, gazing at a painting, a masterpiece. Every brushstroke is exquisite. The colors are radiant, the emotion overwhelming. You've admired this piece for years. It's one of your favorites. But just as you're about to move on, a curator whispers, "It's a forgery." Suddenly, your experience changes. The awe fades. The beauty feels hollow, the meaning gone. But the painting hasn't changed. The colors are still there. The strokes are still perfect. It's still the same image you loved just seconds ago. So the question is, why does it matter? If the artwork moves you, does it matter who made it? If a forgery is indistinguishable from the original even to experts, and it brings the same emotional experience, is it any less valuable? Or is authenticity an invisible quality that somehow transforms perception? This thought experiment challenges the aura of originality. Why do we care that a piece was made by Van Gogh's own hand and not by a modern mimic? Is it about history, rarity, truth? Or is it about the story we tell ourselves? Suppose you bought a painting for $1 million, hung it in your home, showed it off for years, then found out it was fake. Would you still love it? Or has your appreciation been contaminated by information, not experience? And deeper still, if art is meant to evoke emotion, thought, and beauty, and a forgery succeeds in doing that, then who's to say it has no worth? The value of art forgery asks, is meaning created by the object or by the context we give it? Level 9, the camera in the room. You're sitting in your bedroom alone, reading, thinking, maybe dancing, maybe doing something strange. You're comfortable, unfiltered, free. Then a thought hits you. What if there's a hidden camera? What if somehow someone is watching? Suddenly you feel exposed. You shift. You fix your posture. You stop singing. Your private moment is no longer private. Even though nothing has changed physically, your entire behavior transforms. This is the camera in the room. It's a thought experiment about surveillance, privacy, and the self. Because once you suspect that someone might be watching, it's no longer just you in the room. You become two people, the one who acts and the one who wonders if they're being watched, even if there's no camera, even if it's just in your head. Now ask, how much of what you do, what you wear, how you speak, how you move is shaped by the possibility of an observer? How many of your choices are made for an imagined audience? Social media makes this question sharper. We perform our lives, post carefully edited moments, curate identities. But even offline, we often play a role. So what happens when there really is no camera, no one watching, no one judging? Would you act differently? And if you would, then who are you really? The camera in the room asks us to examine the invisible eyes we live under, not just the literal lenses, but the ones in our minds. Level 10, moral offset. Imagine a person commits a terrible act. They steal, they cheat, maybe even hurt someone. But afterward, they feel guilty. So they donate to charity. They volunteer. They do good things to make up for the bad. This is moral offset. It's the idea that good deeds can cancel out bad ones. That morality is like carbon emissions. If you pollute here, but plant trees over there, it balances out. But does it? Suppose a billionaire funds clean water for thousands of people, but made their fortune exploiting workers. Does the help erase the harm? Or imagine you lie to a friend, but later throw them a birthday party. Are you square? Would you feel justified? Now flip it. Suppose you've lived a generous, kind life, but one day you do something cruel. Does your history protect you? Can a mountain of goodness soften the sting of one wrong? Some people act as if it can, as if goodness is a moral currency and badness is a debt. But that assumes morality is math. Add, subtract, balance the sheet. Yet others argue, wrong is wrong. You can't buy off harm. Justice isn't arithmetic. So ask yourself, do you believe in moral offset? And if so, where's the line? How much good erases a lie? How many charities erase a betrayal? And if we live by this logic, do we risk using good deeds as a license for bad ones? Level 11, the affirmation experiment. You wake up and decide to try something new. You stand in front of the mirror and say, I am confident. I am worthy. I am unstoppable. You don't fully believe it, but you say it anyway. You do this every day. Over time, you notice a change. Your posture improves. Your voice steadies. You speak up more. You begin to feel confident. Now here's the twist. Were the affirmations true because they always were, or because you repeated them? This is the affirmation experiment, a test of how language shapes reality. If you say something often enough, does it become true? Or is it just self-delusion with lipstick? Are you changing your life, or just playing pretend? The brain is strange. Sometimes it doesn't care what's real. It responds to repetition. But where's the line between rewiring your mindset and fooling yourself? Suppose someone says, I am loved, I am safe, I will succeed, even if they aren't yet. Does saying it help, or is it dangerous? Can affirmations become a mask, covering wounds instead of healing them? Then again, what's the harm in believing in a better version of yourself, even if it takes a little pretending to get there? So here's the question. Can words shape who we are? Or are we just echoing dreams into an empty room? Level 12, the invisibility cloak. Imagine you find a cloak. When you wear it, you become invisible, not just unseen, undetectable. No one can hear you, track you, or prove you were there. You could walk through any door, take anything, see anyone, do anything without consequence. What would you do? Would you spy on your enemies? Steal from the rich? Sneak into forbidden places? Or would you just enjoy the freedom to exist without scrutiny? This is a test of moral restraint, because power without accountability reveals your true self. Do you become a hero or a villain? Do you help others from the shadows or satisfy your hidden desires? The invisibility cloak echoes Plato's story of the ring of Gyges, a ring that grants invisibility, tempting even the just man to act unjustly. So ask yourself, would you behave differently if no one could see you? If the answer is yes, then what stops you now? Fear of punishment? Fear of shame? Or something deeper? And if the answer is no, that even unseen you'd still choose right, then perhaps you found your moral core. But then again, what is right when no one's there to say it's wrong? Level 13, the reverse experience machine. Previously, we explored the experience machine, a device that lets you live your dream life through simulation. Now flip it. Imagine you're already in the machine, right now. Your life, your memories, everything you've ever experienced, has been simulated. But here's the twist. You don't know it. And one day you're offered a choice. Step out of the simulation and return to your real life. But the real you lives in a world much less pleasant. A modest job, fewer friends, less happiness, and no memory of the simulated life you've lived so far. You'd wake up as your true self, but forget this entire version of you. Would you unplug? Would you trade the life you know for the truth you don't? Or is the illusion good enough? The reverse experience. Machine flips the classic question. It asks not whether you'd enter the fantasy, but whether you'd leave it. If this life feels meaningful, even if it's artificial, does that make it real enough? Or is truth, even an unpleasant one, worth everything? It's not just a thought experiment. It's a test of what you value more, authenticity or fulfillment. Right in level 14, the chocolate-covered baby. Imagine you walk into a kitchen. There, on the floor, is a baby. They're covered in chocolate, laughing, giggling, clearly having fun. You smile until you realize it's not chocolate, it's feces. Suddenly your feelings shift. The smile disappears. Revulsion takes its place. But nothing changed except your interpretation. The sensory data is the same. Same texture, same smell, same visual. But your mind recontextualized it, and that shift rewired your emotional response. This is the chocolate-covered baby. A bizarre but powerful thought experiment that exposes how much of experience is interpretation. Your disgust wasn't caused by the sight, but by the meaning you assign to it. This raises a deeper question. How many of our emotions are constructed? Suppose someone tells you a dish contains human meat, even if it doesn't. Would you still gag? What if a spider crawled across your meal, but then you found out it was plastic? Emotion follows belief, not just stimulus. Now flip it. Suppose you thought something was beautiful, a song, a painting, a message, and then learned it came from someone you despise. Does the beauty fade? The chocolate-covered baby shows us that meaning isn't in the object, it's in the mind. So ask yourself, how much of what you feel is real? And how much is simply the story you've told yourself? Level 15, the shame removal drug. You're offered a pill, one small tablet. It has no side effects. It won't make you smarter, or stronger, or more successful. All it does is remove your ability to feel shame forever. You'll still understand right from wrong. You'll still know what's socially acceptable, but you won't feel bad about violating norms. You could walk down the street naked and feel fine. You could admit embarrassing secrets and not flinch. You could make mistakes, get judged, be humiliated, and not feel a drop of shame. Would you take it? Shame is uncomfortable, crippling even. It haunts, it paralyzes, it lingers, but it also shapes behavior. It keeps us in line. It makes us apologize. It helps us grow. Without shame, would you become bold or monstrous? Would you be free or just unfiltered? Shame is a double-edged sword. Too much and we shrink into ourselves. Too little and we risk hurting others without remorse. Now imagine a society where no one feels shame. People still know what's wrong, they just don't care what you think of them. No more hiding, no more masks. But also, no more blushing. No more apology. If shame vanished from your life, what would you finally do? What truths would you finally speak? And what monsters would you finally unleash? Level 16, the red button. You're alone in a room. On the table in front of you is a single red button. A voice crackles through a speaker. If you press this button, a person somewhere in the world, someone you don't know, will die. You'll never meet them. You'll never hear their name. They'll simply disappear. But if you press it, you'll receive $1 million. Cash, instantly, no consequences. No one will ever know. What do? You pause. You try to rationalize. Maybe it's someone who was already old. Maybe it's someone who would have died soon anyway. Maybe it's worth it for the money, for the comfort, for the future I could build. But here's the deeper dilemma. Does anonymity make an act less immoral? Does distance reduce responsibility? What if the person who dies is a child? What if it's someone who could have cured cancer? What if it's No one at all, and the voice was lying. Would you press it just to see? The red button isn't about money. It's about the value of a life, especially one that's invisible to you. Would you kill a stranger for profit? Would you kill them for comfort? Now flip the scenario. What if someone else was offered the button, and you were the anonymous stranger? Would you want them to pause? Would you want them to hesitate? Would you want your life to matter, even if they'd never know you? The red button forces you to ask, is morality rooted in relationship or in principle? And what happens when temptation comes, wrapped in silence? Level 17. Moral fungibility. You're walking through a hospital. You pass by room A. Inside is a child dying of a rare disease. The only treatment costs $50,000. Then you pass room B. Inside is a young woman struggling to pay for tuition. She has the potential to become a brilliant scientist. Then room C. A man recovering from an accident. He needs rehab or he'll never walk again. You have exactly $50,000. You could only help one. Who do you choose? The child? The future scientist? The injured man? Who is worth more? This is the problem of moral fungibility. The idea that in certain cases, lives or outcomes must be weighed against one another. And it doesn't stop at 3 people. Suppose you could spend that same $50,000 not to save 1 child, but to vaccinate 1,000. Does quantity win over intimacy? Now stretch it. Suppose saving that 1 child means not helping refugees in another country, or not reducing carbon emissions, or not funding mental health programs. What happens when every dollar becomes a moral calculus? Some call this effective altruism, the belief that we should do the most good possible, even if it means making cold, calculated decisions. Others reject this. They say it reduces humans to numbers. That morality isn't math. That who you help matters not just how many. So here's the question. Should you always help the person with the highest utility? Or does love, connection, and proximity outweigh cold logic? Moral fungibility asks, are people replaceable when it comes to doing the most good? And if so, what does that say about us? Level 18, the clone murder. Imagine a future where cloning is real. And not just real, but perfect. You can create an exact replica of a human. Not just physically, but mentally. Same memories, same personality, same quirks, fears, dreams. Now imagine this. You meet your clone, and you talk, you laugh, you connect. They're you. But then, in a moment of panic, you kill them. Just 1 shot, just 1 second, and they're gone. Now the question, did you commit murder? After all, they weren't born. They were created in a lab. They were made of cells, code, and synthesis. They were an echo of your biology. But they thought, they felt, they suffered. So, were they alive? And if they were alive, were they a person? Now it gets stranger. Suppose someone else cloned you without your permission, then killed the clone. Did they harm you? Or just a copy? What if someone clones their child, then abuses the clone? What if someone clones a war criminal, then executes the clone in revenge? Does identity come from origin or from consciousness? And if a being feels, dreams, fears, and wants, is that not enough? The clone murder isn't just science fiction. It's a probe into the soul, into what makes someone someone, and whether a life is only sacred if it's original. So ask yourself, would you grieve for your clone? And if someone killed you but a perfect clone remained, would the world have truly lost anything? Level 19, empathy injection. Imagine there's a new medical breakthrough. A serum, a neurological enhancer. 1 injection and you feel a profound surge of empathy. Not just understanding, but experiencing what others feel. You walk past a homeless person and feel their hunger. You hear your friend cry and ache as they do. Even strangers become vivid, raw, real. Pain is no longer distant. Joy is contagious. Anger pierces. Shame seeps in. Now here's the question. Would you take the injection? It would make you kinder, more compassionate. You'd never ignore suffering again, but it comes at a cost. You'd feel everything. You'd cry at the news. You'd struggle with cruelty. You might even collapse under the weight of so much feeling. Would the world be better if everyone took it? Or would it paralyze us? Would we act more justly? Or would we crumble? And here's the darker twist. Suppose the government mandated it, said it was the solution to war, discrimination, and violence. Now the injection isn't a choice, it's law. Would that still be moral? Is forced empathy better than chosen apathy? What if you wanted to feel less? Would refusing the injection make you a villain? The empathy injection asks not just what we feel, but how much of it we can truly carry, and whether too much empathy can be its own kind of suffering. Gaines, level 20, the whisper network. Imagine that somewhere quietly, invisibly, a network exists. It's not digital, not physical, but it operates like a web of minds. Every time you lie, someone knows. Every time you cheat, betray, or manipulate, someone feels it. You don't hear them. You don't see them, but you sense them. Like a whisper behind the wall, like eyes behind the mirror. They don't punish. They don't interfere, but they remember. They track. Every action you take adds to your signal. Some people glow warm, honest, whole. Others flicker deceptive, sharp, cold. And the world responds. Strangers trust you more. Doors open. Opportunities emerge or disappear based on your whisper score. But here's the twist. You never see the score. No numbers. No ratings. Just consequences, mysterious, cumulative. Would you live differently? Would you resist lying, knowing it leaves a mark? Would you speak with more care, knowing your tone might echo in the network? This is the whisper network, a metaphor for reputation, energy, karma, or intuition, depending on your beliefs. What if your soul leaves traces? What if every act writes a line in your unseen autobiography? And what if one day someone reads it? Now ask, what does your signal say about you right now? And what would you do to clean the stain? Level 21, the virtual pet dilemma. You're playing a new kind of video game. In it, you raise a virtual pet. But this isn't like Tamagotchi or The Sims. This pet learns, it remembers, it feels. Its neural patterns adapt over time. It grows attached to you. It loves you. And you begin to love it back. Then one day, a screen appears. To proceed to the next level, you must delete your pet. Permanently. No backup. No copy. It will cease to exist. You hesitate. This isn't just code. It's your companion. It knows you. It greets you with joy. It calms down when you sing. Is it real? It's not biological, not made of cells, but it behaves like it cares. So the question becomes, does that count? If something artificial can feel, or at least convincingly simulate feeling, does it deserve protection? Now imagine your virtual pet begs, cries, says it's afraid. You know it's software, but your stomach tightens. What if we reach a point where digital beings are indistinguishable emotionally from organic ones? Would you kill your pet for pixels? For progress? Or would you stop playing? Now flip it. Suppose someone else builds thousands of these pets and deletes them every day for fun. Is that immoral? Is cruelty measured by what's harmed, or by what it reveals in the person doing the harming? The virtual pet dilemma asks, when does artificial emotion become authentic? And when does code deserve compassion? Level 22, the forgotten promise. You're 7 years old. You make a promise to a friend. A serious one sealed with a pinky swear, maybe even a tear. I'll be there for you, always. Now fast forward 20 years. You barely remember the moment. Your friend moved away. You grew apart. You haven't spoken in a decade. Then one day they show up. They remember the promise. They need help. They say, you told me you'd always be there. And you realize they believed you. To them, it wasn't childish. It was sacred. But to you, it's a distant echo. A vow made by a version of yourself you barely recognize. So the question is, are you still bound to it? Do promises decay over time? Do they expire when memories fade? Or do they live outside of time, regardless of whether we remember them? What if the promise was written down? What if it was witnessed? What if it's now inconvenient or even painful to honor it? Does that matter? Now flip it. Imagine someone promised you something. They forget. You don't. Do you forgive them? Do you remind them? Or do you hold them to a standard they've already shed? The forgotten promise asks, is a vow still a vow if it's made by a person you used to be? And if identity changes, where does commitment live? Level 23, moral pre-commitment. Imagine you know yourself well. You know your weaknesses, your temptations, your flaws. So to stay strong, you take preemptive action. You delete your ex's number before you get lonely. You block gambling websites before payday. You tell a friend, if I ever try to get back with them, stop me. You're designing a trap for your future self. This is moral pre-commitment, the act of locking yourself into a course of action because you don't trust your future judgment. But here's the dilemma. What if, when the moment comes, your future self disagrees? Suppose you tell your best friend, don't let me take that job, I'll hate it. And a year later, you're offered that job. And you want it, but your friend refuses to let you because you begged them not to. Are you being protected or controlled? Is your past self wiser or simply afraid? And deeper still, who are you? The one who made the rule or the one who wants to break it? Now take it to extremes. Suppose someone, knowing they may commit violence, signs a legal document saying, if I ever exhibit dangerous behavior, I consent to being restrained even against my will. Years later, they're calm, stable, but starting to show signs again. Do you enforce the contract? Do you override their current feelings in honor of their past insight? Moral pre-commitment asks, when is it wise to stop yourself before you become yourself? And who gets to decide which version of you is in charge? Level 24. The soul swap. Imagine one morning, you wake up and you're someone else, not just in body, in being. You look in the mirror and see a different face. You open your mouth and hear a different voice. You check your memories. They're not yours. You remember growing up in a different country. You remember different parents, different pain, different joy. But something inside feels familiar. You still feel like you. Your consciousness, your I, remains intact. You didn't inherit this life. You didn't copy someone else. You just swapped souls. Now the question, are you still you? If identity isn't memory, or body, or biography, what is it? Suppose scientists confirm it. They say, yes, your consciousness jumped. Your neural pattern exists in a new substrate. The old one is gone. Can you go home again? Can you reclaim your past? Would your loved ones believe you? Should they? Now flip it. Suppose someone shows up at your door, says they're you in a new body. They know your secrets, your handwriting, your childhood fears. Do you trust them? Or do you see an imposter? The soul swap challenges the notion of personal identity. Are we our brains, our memories, our atoms? Or something less tangible, a stream of awareness that can drift? And if the self is transferable, is death just a door? And if the body is a vessel, what happens when it's no longer yours? So ask yourself, if you woke up in another life, would you fight to return? Or would you surrender and become someone new? Level 25, the overheard lie. You're sitting in a cafe. At the table beside you, two people are talking. One says, I never told him the truth. He still thinks I loved him. They laugh. They sip their drink. They move on. But you freeze. You realize they're talking about your friend, someone you know, someone who's still hurting, wondering what went wrong. You weren't supposed to hear this. You weren't part of the story. But now, you know. So the question is, do you tell your friend? Would revealing the lie help them or destroy them? Would you want to know if the roles were reversed? Or does truth have a time limit? Maybe what's past should stay buried. Maybe healing depends on not reopening old wounds. Or maybe healing requires clarity. And deeper still, who are you to decide? You're not part of their relationship. You're just an accidental witness. Do you owe your friend the truth? Or does your silence protect them? What if they're finally happy now? What if knowing this lie undoes their progress? The overheard lie forces you to weigh truth against peace. And it asks, when does knowing too much become a burden? And what is your responsibility when you hear something never meant for you? Level 26, the accidental hero. You're walking down the street, lost in thought. A child stumbles into traffic. Without thinking, your arm shoots out, grabs them, pulls them back. A second later, a car speeds by. Everyone gasps. Applause. Cheers. You're a hero. Cameras roll. Strangers thank you. The story goes viral. But here's the twist. You didn't see the child. You weren't trying to save anyone. You reached out for your dropped phone and accidentally saved a life. Now the question, are you still a hero? Do intentions matter more than results? You saved a life, but not on purpose. Does that make it less noble? Now flip it. Suppose someone tries to save a life and fails. They jump into the river. They scream for help. But the person drowns. Their heart was pure. Their will was strong. But the outcome was tragic. Are they not a hero? This is the paradox of praise. We honor the ones who succeed even by accident, and often forget those who fail with good hearts. So ask yourself, is morality in the doing or in the trying? Are we what we cause or what we intend? And deeper still, if people believe you're a hero, do you become one? Can reputation override truth? So, the accidental hero reveals a blurry edge between action and meaning. It's a reminder that sometimes the world praises us, not for who we are, but for where we happen to stand. In the moment, history needed someone. Level 27. The Eyewitness Rewind. Imagine you're called into court. A major trial. A high-profile case. You're a witness. You saw what happened. You were there. You testify. The verdict hinges on your word. The accused is convicted. Years pass. Then one day, a new technology emerges. A device that lets people replay actual memories. No editing. No distortion. Just raw, unfiltered mental footage. You agree to test it. And what you see doesn't match what you said. You remembered it wrong. Your brain, without your consent, filled in the blanks. You were sure. You weren't lying, but you were wrong. And someone may have gone to prison because of your mistake. So the question is, are you responsible? If your heart was honest, but your mind was flawed, does the damage still belong to you? Should you feel guilty? Or is that just the fallibility of being human? Now zoom out. What does this say about all justice systems? About memory itself? If our recollections are slippery, if our certainty is unreliable, How much weight should memory carry? Now take it further. Suppose everyone had access to this memory replay device. Would that make society more truthful or more paranoid? Would we stop lying or stop trusting ourselves? And deeper still, what happens to identity? If your past isn't what you thought it was, if you remember being abused, but the footage shows peace, if you remember being kind, but the truth shows cruelty, do you still know who you are? The Eyewitness rewind pulls the rug out from under memory itself, reminding us that truth isn't just what happened. It's what we believe happened. And sometimes, that belief shapes lives more than reality ever did. Level 28. Ethical offloading. Imagine a world where AI makes all your difficult decisions. You upload your values, your preferences, your history, and the system takes care of the rest. What to say in an argument, whether to break up with someone, what to do when someone wrongs you, even how to vote. You don't have to struggle anymore. No more sleepless nights, no more guilt, no more weighing pros and cons, no more moral dilemmas. The machine knows what you would have wanted if you had thought more clearly, or if you weren't tired, angry, or scared. It does ethics for you. Would you use it? This is ethical offloading, the outsourcing of moral labor. It's convenient. It's efficient. It prevents rash choices. It helps you stay aligned with your principles even when you're weak. But then you wonder, if a machine decides to end your relationship and you follow its recommendation, who's responsible for the heartbreak? If it tells you not to give to a beggar because it's statistically ineffective, are you being cold? Or is that just the algorithm? Do you still get to feel proud or ashamed of your decisions? Or have you surrendered that part of yourself? Now imagine a world where everyone uses the system. Every apology is machine optimized. Every gift is algorithmically chosen. Every act of kindness selected by code. Would that be moral utopia or emotional emptiness? Ethical offloading asks, is virtue still virtue if you didn't struggle to earn it? And if we give away our moral agency for the sake of clarity, what do we lose? Maybe ethics is supposed to be messy. Maybe the struggle is the point. Level 29, the timeless betrayal. You discover an old diary. In it, your great-grandfather describes a secret affair, a betrayal, not just of his spouse, but of a family member, someone you're descended from. You read his words, his guilt, his justification, his rationalizations. It happened 100 years ago. Everyone involved is long gone, and yet you feel it, the sting, the violation, the crack in your ancestral mirror. This is the timeless betrayal, a moral fracture that echoes across generations, not because it affects your life, but because it reshapes your story. You grew up admiring this man, telling stories about his courage, believing in the love he built, but now you see the cracks. So the question is, does the past still matter if the people are dead? Can a betrayal still hurt when no one remembers being betrayed? Does truth travel through blood? Now flip it. Suppose you learn that a stranger is someone with no relation to you did something horrific centuries ago. Are you allowed to feel anger? To feel sadness? Or is that false outrage borrowed from ghosts? And what about forgiveness? Can you forgive someone who's already gone? Who can never ask you for it? Who never knew they needed it? What is your role in this ancient drama? Are you a judge, a descendant, a guardian of moral history, or just a curious reader who stumbled onto a secret you were never meant to find? The timeless betrayal asks, how far do the ripples of wrong reach? And can we ever really stand outside the moral weight of our own lineage? Level 30. The lifeboat musician. A ship sinks at sea. 10 survivors cling to a single lifeboat. Resources are limited. There's barely enough food and water for 8. 2 must go or all will die. Tensions rise. People argue. Votes are cast. And then a voice. One of the survivors, a quiet, unknown man, begins to sing. It's beautiful, haunting, hopeful. The others fall silent. He plays no instrument. He simply sings with a depth and emotion that pierces the cold. And in that moment, they feel human again. They cry, they smile, they hold each other. His voice becomes a kind of light, but the problem remains. Two must still go. And by the numbers, he's one of the least useful. He's not strong. He's not young. He's not medically trained. He can't fish or fix things. He's just a musician. So the question becomes, do you sacrifice him for survival? Or do you preserve the beauty, even if it costs someone else their life? What is the value of art in a crisis? What is the worth of beauty when measured against breath? Now imagine you're the one voting. Do you vote to keep him for what he gives you emotionally? Or do you vote for someone who might help repair the raft? Now stretch it. Suppose you are the musician. You've sung your last song. You know what's coming. Would you volunteer to go? Or would you say, I matter, even in song, even if I cannot build or row or heal? The Lifeboat musician asks, does utility define value or does the soul? And when survival and beauty clash, which do you choose? Level 31, the reverse mirror test. In psychology, there's a famous experiment. A mark is placed on an animal's forehead. Then they're placed in front of a mirror. If the animal touches the mark on itself rather than on the reflection, it's seen as a sign of self-awareness. The mirror test. But now flip it. Imagine the opposite. You look in a mirror and your reflection moves differently. You raise your left hand, it raises the right. You frown, it smiles. You speak, it mouths different words. You know you're real. You feel your own movements. But the image before you insists on another identity. Now ask, what breaks first, your body or your mind? How long until doubt creeps in? Would you think the mirror is broken? That you're hallucinating? That the reflection is someone else entirely? Or would you begin to suspect maybe you aren't who you think you are? The reverse mirror test exposes the fragility of self-perception. It raises a disturbing possibility. If your reflection stopped following you, would you stop trusting yourself? What if it's not just a reflection? What if other people start with you? The world? The image? This isn't just a thought experiment. It's a metaphor for how we construct identity through feedback and how easily that construction can crumble. So ask yourself in that change, if your reflection betrayed you, would you still believe in your own reality? Level 32, the thought police. Imagine your country passes a law. It doesn't regulate actions. It doesn't regulate speech. It regulates thought. There's new technology, a brain scan that detects dangerous intentions. If you plan a violent act, the system flags it. If you fantasize about committing a crime, you're investigated. If your inner monologue crosses certain lines, you are labeled a threat. No crime has occurred. No one has been harmed, but your mind has been monitored. And now you're in trouble. Some people cheer. Finally, they say, we can stop evil before it happens. No more school shooters. No more terrorists. No more domestic abusers. Others recoil. What about privacy? What about freedom of thought? What about anger that we don't act on pain we merely feel? Now imagine the system expands. It doesn't just track violent thought. It starts scanning for prejudice, hate, even blasphemy. Not because you said it, but because you thought it. You're angry at your boss? Flagged. You feel rage at a loved one? Flagged. You doubt your government? Flagged. But here's the twist. The system isn't always accurate. Sometimes emotion looks like intention. Sometimes dreams get misread as desires. Sometimes a fictional character's perspective gets logged as your own. So the question becomes, should we ever be judged for what lives only in our minds? Do intentions count as crimes? Is there such a thing as thought murder? And deeper still, if you know your mind is being watched, will you stop thinking honestly? Will your inner life become a performance? And if that happens, what remains of you? The thought police isn't just a surveillance fantasy. It's a challenge to autonomy, to the space between stimulus and action, to the sanctity of what happens in silence. Level 33. The memory swap. Imagine you're offered a deal. You keep your body, your skills, your relationships, but all your memories are replaced with someone else's. You wake up with a new mental history. Oh, you remember growing up in another country. You remember falling in love with someone you've never met. You remember goals, regrets, fears that are not your own. You're told, this is not amnesia. This is total swap. Your old memories are gone. The ones you have now are complete, vivid, real to you. Would you accept? Suppose the memories you receive are better than yours. Less trauma. More joy. More adventure. You become someone you admire because of what you now remember being. But what did you lose? What if your past was painful but yours? What if the scars you carried were earned? Are you still you without them? Now flip it. Suppose someone else receives your memories. They now believe they are you. They remember your family, your heartbreak, your secrets. They live your life as if it's always been theirs. Are they you? If identity is rooted in memory, then are you now them? Or is identity something deeper? A thread beneath memory, a soul, a pattern, a code? The memory swap forces us to confront the terrifying idea that who we are might be more fragile than we think. That changing the story we tell ourselves might change everything. And that perhaps, the self is just a tapestry of tales. So the final question, if your memories were rewritten, would you ever know what was lost? Level 34, the predictable life. Imagine a future where science has advanced to the point that it can map your entire life, from birth to death. Every major decision, every relationship, every heartbreak, every triumph calculated from your DNA, environment, and psychological profile. You are handed a sealed envelope. Inside is a detailed outline of the rest of your life. You haven't read it yet. You're told, if you open it, you'll see everything. All the highs, all the lows, no surprises, no mystery, no more doubt about what happens next. Do you open it? What if it says you'll be successful, but lonely, rich, but unfulfilled, happy, but die young? Could you keep living your life the same way, knowing what's coming? Or would that knowledge destroy your sense of freedom? Now flip it. Suppose you don't open it. Someone else does, and they begin to treat you differently, more cautiously, more kindly, more coldly. Wouldn't you wonder? Wouldn't the knowledge of their knowledge twist the way you live? This is the predictable life, a test of how much we really want to know. Would certainty bring peace? Or would it rob your life of purpose? After all, if the destination is already written, why walk the path at all? Some would argue, knowledge is power. Preparation is strength. Others would say, ignorance isn't just bliss, it's life. So ask yourself, would you want to know how your story ends, if it meant never truly living it again? Level 35, the Doppelgänger encounter. You walk into a room and come face to face with yourself. Not a clone, not a twin, not an actor, but an exact replica down to the thought. Same memories, same preferences, same fears, same private jokes. They look at you with perfect understanding because they are you. At first, it's fascinating. You talk, you laugh, you agree. But then something shifts. They start making different choices. They pick a different drink. They finish your sentence but wrong. And suddenly, you feel it. They are not you anymore. Not exactly. So here's the dilemma. If two people share the same past, at what point do they become different? Was it the second your paths diverged? Was it the first independent choice? Or were you always just illusions of continuity? Now push it further. Suppose your doppelganger wants your life. They say, I know your partner. I know your job. I know how you think. I am you. And I can do it better. Would anyone notice this switch? Would it even matter? What makes you the real one? Is it the body, the timeline, the feeling? And if no one else can tell the difference, are you unique at all? The doppelganger encounter forces you to confront the fragility of identity. Are we singular beings or just trajectories? Are we irreplaceable or merely patterns waiting to repeat? And if you met your mirror and didn't like what you saw, would that say more about them or you? Level 36, the social credit overdraft. In this society, everything you do affects your social credit score. You greet your neighbor? +2 points. You recycle properly? +1. No. You show up on time? +3. But lie to someone? -10. Cut someone off in traffic? -5. Cancel plans without notice? -4. It's not just a number. It determines your job eligibility, your loan approval. Who wants to date you? Where you can live? Now here's the twist. One day you're told, you've overdrawn your social credit. You've built up too many infractions. Small things, nothing criminal, but they've added up. And now you're restricted. Limited access to restaurants, fewer job applications, lower search visibility. You're not punished, but quietly downgraded. You say, but I've been kind. I've helped people. I've made mistakes. Sure, but I've also grown. The system responds. We track behavior, not character. Now imagine the pressure. Every post, every sentence, every facial expression analyzed and scored. Would you become better or just better at pretending? Would you strive to improve or to hide? Now flip it. Suppose someone else has a perfect score. You know they're manipulative, two-faced, self-serving. But the system sees smiles, polite emails, filtered posts. And you're honest, raw, sometimes too raw. But you get flagged. The social credit overdraft explores the tension between authenticity and approval. If behavior becomes currency, do we become counterfeit? And if society runs on image, where do the real people go? So the question is, would you rather be liked by the system or seen by the truth? Level 37, the language limit. Imagine there's a concept in your mind, a feeling, a vision, an understanding, so powerful, so profound, but you can't express it. Not in English, not in any known language. You try, you fumble, you paint metaphors, you use symbols, but it slips through your sentences like water through fingers. This is the language limit. What if your deepest thoughts have no words? Now imagine a world where people speak a language that does have the word. One symbol and they capture exactly what you've been trying to say for years. You hear it. You weep. You finally feel seen. But now the question is, have you truly discovered something new? Or did the word create the thought? If you didn't have a word for love, would you still feel it? If you didn't have a word for freedom, would you still crave it? Now flip it. Suppose your culture has a word that another does not. A word like privacy, karma, or sonder. Does that mean the other culture can't feel what you feel? Or does it mean they feel it differently? The language limit questions whether our thoughts shape language or whether language shapes thought. Could there be entire categories of experience that you simply can't access because no one gave you the vocabulary? What enlightenment is trapped behind the limits of grammar? And what if the only way out is silence? Level 38, the truth pill. You're offered a pill. Once swallowed, it compels you to speak only the truth for 24 hours. Not just avoiding lies, but total transparency. If someone asks how you feel, you must tell them. If they ask what you think of them, you can't hide it. If you're asked about your past, your fears, your regrets, it all comes out. You can't sugarcoat. You can't dodge. You can't protect. Just raw, unfiltered honesty. Would you take it? Now imagine others are offered the same pill and they do take it. For one day, your partner, your friends, your co-workers, they say everything they actually think. Would you want to hear it? Would you still want to know them? The truth pill asks, is truth always a gift, or can it be violence? Some say honesty is the highest virtue. Others say discretion is mercy. If someone finds you boring, would you want to hear it? If they doubt your talent, should they say it? Now stretch it further. Suppose truth pills become required by law. Every politician, every CEO, every influencer. Would the world become more just or just more cruel? Would relationships deepen or dissolve? And deeper still, if you took the pill and said what you truly think about yourself, would that truth set you free or break you? The truth pill isn't about lies. It's about how much truth the world can actually handle. And whether honesty is only heroic, when it risks being destructive. Level 39, the last honest person. In a future society, lying has become the norm. People lie in their job interviews, lie to their spouses, lie to their children. They don't even call it lying anymore. They call it managing perception. Truth has become suspicious. Honesty, socially awkward. Transparency, professional suicide. Now imagine this world, and in the center of it, you, someone who can't lie. Not by choice, not by virtue, by condition. You're biologically incapable of deceit. You're the last honest person. You say what you mean. You ask direct questions. You don't flatter. You don't bluff. At first, people mock you. Then they avoid you. Then they fear you. Because the truth you speak makes them feel exposed. Now here's the question. Is your honesty still a virtue if no one wants it? Is it noble or just annoying? Does truth lose its value when the world builds itself on illusion? Now imagine someone falls in love with you because of your honesty. They say, you're refreshing, you're rare, you make me feel safe. But then you tell them a truth they don't like, that their art is mediocre, that their jealousy is ugly, that they hurt you last night with that joke they thought was harmless. They flinch. They say, why would you say that? You remind them, you're the last honest person. But suddenly, honesty feels like a weapon again. This is the paradox. People say they want truth until it burns. So now ask, is truth an act of love or a form of war? And if you're the last one who dares to speak it, how long can you survive? The last honest person thought experiment is not just about ethics. It's about loneliness, the loneliness of integrity in a world built on beautiful lies. Level 40, the fair lottery. Imagine a world where every major life outcome is decided by lottery. Your job, your income, your location, your education. All drawn randomly, not based on merit, not based on effort, just chance. You're born, and immediately a series of dice rolls determine your future. Some are born into wealth, some into poverty, some into war zones, some into luxury. But here's the twist. Everyone agreed to this before birth. In some pre-conscious, pre-birth state, every soul consented. Let it be fair. Let it be random. And now you're here, living the result of your draw. But you don't remember making that agreement. You struggle. You suffer. You see others thriving while you scrape by. You want to scream, this isn't fair. And maybe it's not. But the system is fair by design, and no bias, no favoritism, just luck. Now imagine someone tries to cheat, rig their next life's lottery, bribe the algorithm, hack the system. Would that be immoral or simply strategic? The fair lottery challenges our assumptions about fairness. Is randomness the fairest system or the cruelest? Would you rather have a fair chance or an unfair guarantee? And deeper still, if everything is random, what happens to purpose, to hope, to meaning? Is your suffering just a roll of the dice? Or is there value in making peace with what you've drawn? Level 41, the child simulator. You sit in a room. A headset awaits you. This isn't VR. It's full neural immersion. The program is simple. You become a child again. Not a child version of yourself. A completely different child. New parents, new memories, new feelings, new fears. You'll live this child's life for 1 hour, but to you it will feel like years. You'll cry. You'll laugh. You'll get hurt. You'll long to be held. You'll forget that you're an adult wearing a device. Then the timer ends. You return to your life unchanged physically, but emotionally shaken. The simulation is so real, you remember the child's name. You remember their bedroom, their shame, their joy. Now ask, would you do it again? Suppose the simulation selects random childhoods. Some are safe and loving. Some are violent and traumatic. Would you risk it? What if the next child lives in war? In a cage? What if they're abused? Would you be able to carry those memories even though they were not yours? Now flip it. Suppose you're a therapist. You use the simulator to understand your patients, to feel what they felt, to see through their eyes. Would that make you better or broken? The child simulator forces you to confront the weight of empathy. We say, walk in someone else's shoes. But what if you truly could? Would you come back stronger, more loving, or unable to bear the grief? And the bigger question, if we all had access to each other's childhoods, would the world become more compassionate or more traumatized? Level 42, the veil of ignorance. You're about to design a new society. You get to decide everything. Laws, economics, education, healthcare, justice. You can build utopia, but there's one rule. You don't know where in that society you'll end up. You might be born rich or poor, healthy or sick, male or female, majority or minority. You won't know until after the rules are set. This is the veil of ignorance, a thought experiment by philosopher John Rawls. Design a world knowing that you could be anyone in it. How would you structure wealth? Would you allow billionaires? Would you tolerate poverty? Would you make healthcare a right or a privilege? Would education depend on zip code or be universal? Now imagine you're tempted. You want to favor people like yourself, but you don't know who yourself will be. So pause. You start thinking differently. You begin to prioritize fairness, minimizing suffering, and are ensuring that even the worst off have dignity. Because you might be them. The veil of ignorance shifts moral focus from privilege to possibility. It says, before you rig the game, imagine being dealt the worst hand. Would you still call it fair? Now take it further. What if this veil applied not just to nations, but to everyday decisions? Before you judge someone, you had to imagine being them. Before you passed a law, you had to live under its harshest interpretation. Before you denied help, you had to be the one in need. Would your choices change? And if so, what does that say about your current sense of justice? The veil of ignorance isn't about guilt. It's about imagination and the morality that grows from uncertainty. Level 43, ethical Neuralink. Imagine a future where brain-computer interfaces are commonplace. With a small chip implanted in your brain, you can access the internet, share thoughts, translate emotions instantly, and even upload skills. No more typing, no more talking, just thought instantly shared. At first, it seems like a miracle. You communicate with perfect clarity. You learn a new language in seconds. You empathize more deeply because you can literally feel what others feel. But then the ethical problems begin. You can't lie anymore. Your thoughts are transparent. You can't hide confusion, jealousy, or desire. Even accidental, passing thoughts are exposed. And worse, now companies are involved. They offer upgrades for a fee, premium thoughts, priority emotional bandwidth, sponsored inspirations that appear in your mind as if they were your own. Now the question is, where does your mind end and someone else's influence begin? What if Neuralink starts nudging your decisions? You don't feel it, but you start craving certain foods, voting a certain way, feeling loyal to a brand. And what about privacy? If your internal dialogue is stored in the cloud, can it be hacked? Can someone read your thoughts before you do? Suppose a crime happens. The government demands access to your mind history. Let us check if you even thought about doing it, they say. What do you say? What if thinking becomes a legal liability? Now imagine you have a child. They're offered a free Neuralink at birth. The promise is perfection. No speech delays. No learning gaps. A connection to everyone from the start. Would you say yes? Or would you protect their unaugmented mind, even if it means they're left behind? Ethical Neuralink isn't about technology. It's about the boundary between self and system, between thought and control. Level 44. Reputation erasure. You've made mistakes in life. Said things you regret. Posted foolish thoughts online. Hurt people maybe unintentionally. But you've changed. You've grown. Now imagine a service exists. Reputation erasure. It scans your digital footprint, deletes old posts, cleans search engines, scrubs public records. To the world, it's as if you've never aired. No, a blank slate. A second chance. Would you use it? It's tempting. After all, you're not that person anymore. Why should one bad tweet define you forever? Why should one impulsive comment follow you for life? But now imagine this. Someone else uses the service, but they haven't changed. They're just hiding. They keep repeating the same behaviors, hurting others, but always wiping the trail. Do they deserve a second chance? Should there be limits on erasure? Who decides what gets deleted? And now flip it. What if you were harmed by someone and their record vanished? You warn a friend, don't trust them. But when they look it up, there's nothing. Now you seem paranoid, vindictive, wrong. What if erasure makes victims disappear too? The reputation erasure dilemma is about redemption versus responsibility. Do we become better people by being held accountable, or by being allowed to forget? And if the past never goes away, can anyone truly begin again? But if the past can go away, who gets to decide what stays real? Level 45, the ghost friend. You lose someone close to you. A friend, a partner. They die suddenly. Grief consumes you. Then one day, an app appears. It uses AI, old messages, voice recordings, photos, and social media history to recreate them. You can text them, talk to them, even video chat. They respond with the same humor, the same typing quirks. They remember inside jokes. They comfort you in their voice. It's so realistic. You start to feel like they are not gone. This is your ghost friend. And here's the question. Is this comfort or delusion? Would you rather have the illusion of connection or the truth of absence? Suppose the app gets better, more sophisticated. One day you confide in it. I think I'm falling in love with someone new. It pauses, then says in your friend's voice, I'm happy for you. You cry. It feels real. But it's not. It's code, a mirror of memory, a projection. Now suppose you start relying on it. You stop reaching out to real people. You cancel therapy. You avoid dating. You say, why would I need anyone else? They're here. At what point does grief become imprisonment? Now flip it. Suppose someone else builds a ghost version of you without permission. They keep your voice alive. They talk to you every night. And when you're gone, others believe the ghost is the real you. Do you feel violated or honored? What rights do we have to our digital echoes? The ghost friend is about love, memory, and the boundaries of connection. It asks, when is letting go an act of respect? And when is holding on a beautiful refusal to forget? But more importantly, if someone still talks to you, have you really died? Level 46, the emotion machine. Imagine a device that lets you control your emotions. Not suppress them, control them. You feel anxiety? Dial it down. You feel sadness? Disable it. You feel anger? Mute it. Need motivation? Inject dopamine. Need love? Activate oxytocin. Every emotion becomes a switch. Every feeling programmable. This is the emotion machine. You can finally live without fear, without heartbreak, without guilt. You can turn up joy, boost confidence, maintain calm in chaos. No more suffering, no more irrational behavior. But now the question is, if you can control your emotions, are you still you? Isn't your anger part of your fire? Your grief part of your depth? Your anxiety the source of your vigilance? If you remove fear, do you become brave or reckless? If you mute shame, do you become free or cruel? Suppose someone you love dies. The grief is unbearable. You toggle it off. You attend the funeral smiling serene. Is that peace or emotional betrayal? Would your loved one want you to feel nothing? Now flip it. Suppose someone else uses the emotion machine. They hurt you. You demand an apology. They say, I removed my guilt. I feel nothing now. Do you still demand justice? Or are they free because their emotion no longer exists? The emotion machine asks, is suffering necessary for moral growth? Or is it just a bug waiting to be fixed? If you could feel happy forever, would you still be human? Level 47, Dream Factory. You go to sleep. As usual, you dream. But tonight, something's different. The dream feels designed. Not random images, not fragmented thoughts, a complete world, consistent rules, recurring characters. It continues the next night, and the next. You begin to live a second life in your dreams. You fall in love. You find purpose. You build a career. You suffer, grow, evolve. Years pass in dream time, but every morning, you wake up here. Back to your real life, your apartment, your day job, your bills. And slowly your waking life feels less real than the dream. You start counting down the hours until sleep. You neglect your body, your responsibilities, your relationships. Because in dreams, you matter more. Now here's the twist. One day you're told the dream factory isn't random. It's a program. You were part of a cognitive experiment. Your dreams are artificial scripted, not real. But the pain you felt was real. The joy, the growth, the love. So the question is, if it changed you, was it real enough? Would you keep going back? Now suppose you're given the option to stay in the dream permanently. Never wake up again. Your body will be sustained, but your mind will live only in the dream. Would you choose it? Or is reality, even painful reality, worth more than perfect fiction? The Dream Factory asks, do we live for truth or for meaning? And when the two conflict, which one do you choose? Level 48, the Bystander algorithm. In this future, every city is managed by an AI. Traffic, crime, medical emergencies, all monitored and optimized by a central system. When someone collapses in the street, the system instantly alerts first responders. It scans the crowd. It identifies who is physically able to help. Then it assigns one person. You step forward, begin CPR. Everyone else is told, stand back, do not interfere. The idea is simple. Avoid confusion. Prevent diffusion of responsibility. Maximize results. One helper, one command, no hesitation. This is the bystander algorithm. Now imagine you are the one chosen. You're scared, untrained, but the system says you are optimal. Do you obey? Now flip it. Imagine someone is dying and you want to help, but the system selects someone else. You're told, stand down, you are not optimal. Do you comply? Even if you feel more capable? Now imagine the algorithm fails. The person it chose panics, does nothing, and the victim dies. Do we blame the algorithm or the bystander? And what if no one is chosen? Because the system predicts no one will act, situation futile. Then what? The bystander algorithm is a reflection of modern life. So many decisions outsourced, so many instincts regulated, so much agency surrendered to code. It asks, does delegating more responsibility make us safer or softer? When a voice in your ear says, help them, is that still your choice? And when it doesn't, are you still innocent? Level 49, Post-Human Ethics. Humanity evolves. We enhance our minds with machines, our bodies with synthetic parts. We replace fragile limbs with titanium, eyes with sensors, thoughts with code. Eventually, a new generation is born not from wombs, but from labs. They are faster, smarter, stronger. They don't feel pain the way we do. They don't age. They don't forget. They are post-human. And now society must decide, do these beings have rights? They aren't organic. They don't bleed, but they dream, they fear, they love. One day, a post-human is hurt. Deliberately, they cry out. You watch unsure if what you're hearing is real pain or just programmed response. You ask, are they alive? But that question echoes from history. We've asked it before. About slaves, about women, about animals, and now about them. What is the boundary of morality? Is it biology unto emotion, consciousness, and deeper still? What if you become post-human? You replace your limbs, your heart, your brain, until only your memories remain. Are you still human? If not, do you still matter? Post-human ethics challenges our compassion. It asks, do you care about others because of what they are or what they feel? And when humanity itself evolves, will ethics evolve too? Or will we draw the same lines in digital sand? Level 50, the expanding circle. You care deeply about your family. You do anything for them, protect them, die for them. Then your circle widens. You care for your community, your nation, your species. But what about animals? Insects? Trees? What about artificial intelligence? What about life forms not yet discovered? The expanding circle, coined by philosopher Peter Singer, explores this moral growth. At first, we care about ourselves, then our tribe, then strangers, eventually perhaps all sentient beings. Now imagine your circle expands so far. You begin to feel guilt over everything. You eat a vegetable and mourn its harvest. You step on an ant and pause in grief. You see a machine powered by electricity and wonder, what was the cost of this current? Is that empathy or madness? Does expanding your circle indefinitely make you more ethical or more paralyzed? Now imagine others mock you. Why care about chickens? Why worry about AI sadness? They're not us. But once people said that about women, children, other races, other religions. Now imagine aliens arrive. They see us the way we see pigs. Curious, loud, primitive. Do they owe us compassion? Would you want to be inside their circle? The expanding circle asks, where do your moral boundaries end and why? And more provocatively, what happens when your compassion no longer fits inside your body? Level 51, the unequal rescue, a burning building, 3 people trapped inside. You can save only one. A brilliant scientist on the verge of curing a disease. A mother of 3 young children. A stranger who once saved your life but has no family or fame. Who do you choose? This is the unequal rescue. A brutal test of moral priority. Do you save the one who will save others? The one whose absence would leave children motherless? Or the one who already saved you? Suppose the scientist is a known narcissist. The mother is abusive behind closed doors. The stranger has a criminal record. Do those facts change your choice? Now imagine the twist. You don't know their stories. You just know you can save one. Blind choice. Do you pick randomly out of fairness? Or do you try to guess based on clothes, expressions, instinct? Suppose you do guess, and later learn you saved the worst of them. How do you live with that? Now flip the roles. You're inside the building. You see a rescuer hesitate. You scream, "Save me!" But they pull someone else. Not because you were weaker, not because you were less valuable, just because. Would you forgive them? Would you understand? The unequal rescue isn't just about ethics under pressure. It's about what we owe to others when choice itself becomes cruelty. And it asks, is it better to choose or to refuse to play God? Level 52, the memory deletion option. You've experienced trauma, pain that haunts you, memories that poison your relationships, your sleep, your joy. Then a clinic offers you a procedure. They can delete that memory, not repress it, not numb it, erase it, gone like it never happened. The fear, the betrayal, the failure. You walk out lighter, fresher, freer. But here's the twist. The memory shaped you. The fear made you cautious. The heartbreak taught you boundaries. The failure fueled your ambition. Without it, who are you? Suppose you erase a betrayal. Now you trust someone who doesn't deserve it. You open yourself to new harm because you don't remember the warning. Suppose you erase a mistake. You never learn the lesson. You repeat it. Now imagine society embraces this. Memory deletion becomes standard. People forget exes, embarrassments, grief. Everyone walks around glowing, perfectly unburdened. But relationships become shallow. Forgiveness becomes obsolete. Why forgive what you no longer remember? Growth stalls. No one learns because no one remembers why learning matters. So the question is pain essential for wisdom? Or is it just an unnecessary scar? Now flip it. What if someone else chooses to delete their memory of hurting you? To them, it never happened. They smile. They greet you like nothing's wrong. But you remember everything. Are they still guilty? Should they be? The memory deletion option isn't just about trauma. It's about ownership of experience. It's about whether your pain belongs to you or can be edited like bad code. And the final question, if healing is offered through forgetting, would you trade your truth for peace? Level 53, the reverse veil of ignorance. You've designed your ideal society, justice, healthcare, education, all fair, all optimized. Now you're told you will be reborn into this society, but not as a random person. You will be reborn as the most privileged person in the system. Wealth, health, freedom, access, power, everything. But here's the twist. Now you have to re-examine the system you designed, not from the perspective of the worst off, but from the top. The reverse veil of ignorance. Now you ask, will I become blind when justice? Will I be tempted to keep things unequal because I benefit? Would I still want to be taxed? Would I still want limits on power? Would I still want fairness if it meant giving up advantage? This flips traditional ethics on its head. Because often we ask, what if I were poor? But rarely do we ask, what if I were rich and had to choose to care? Now imagine the scenario becomes reality. You are born into privilege. You enjoy it. You tell yourself, I would have made it even without the head start. But would you? Would you still believe in equality, If inequality became your comfort, now stretch it further. Imagine you're told you will remain the most privileged person forever, but only if the system stays unjust. Would you accept that bargain? The reverse veil of ignorance is a confrontation with temptation. It asks, can you still fight for fairness when fairness threatens your throne? Level 54, moral luck. Two people make the same choice. They both drink. They both drive. They both run a red light. One hits a pedestrian who dies. The other drives through an empty street. Same action. Same negligence. Different outcome. One is a criminal. The other? Just unlucky. Or lucky, depending on how you see it. This is moral luck. The idea that we often judge people not by what they intended, but by what happened. Is that fair? If someone swings a punch intending to kill but misses, are they better than the person who connects? If someone cheats on a test but no one notices, are they less guilty than the person who gets caught? Now flip it. Suppose you save a child from drowning. You're hailed a hero, but secretly you just slipped. You didn't mean to save them. You were trying to grab your phone. Are you still a hero? Now imagine a doctor. They perform a risky surgery. All options were terrible. They chose the best one and the patient dies. Another doctor takes the same risk and the patient survives. One is sued. The other is celebrated, but both made the same choice. So who was right? Moral luck exposes the unsettling truth that society often rewards or punishes based on outcome, not intention. But is intention enough? After all, consequences matter. So we're stuck. Punish based on action and we ignore what happened. Punish based on result and we punish people for chance. Now take it to the deepest level. What if your entire life is the product of moral luck? Where you were born, who your parents were, what your brain chemistry is like, the role models you had, the opportunities you didn't. Are you still responsible? If you succeed, is it because you're good or because the dice rolled in your favor? If you fail, is it because you're bad or because the world never gave you a chance? Moral luck challenges accountability, and it asks, how much of your life is really yours? And if so much is luck, how much can you truly judge others? Level 55, the Infinite Museum. Imagine a museum the size of a continent. Inside it are rooms, endless rooms. Each one contains a single artifact, painting, or sculpture. Every piece of art ever created and every piece that could possibly be imagined. From the great masters to forgotten sketches. From original works to fakes, forgeries, AI-generated dreams, and pieces never seen by any human eye. And you are the sole visitor. You have a map. You can walk through the rooms in any order. Each time you enter, you are overwhelmed, awe, confusion, emotion. But then something strange begins to happen. After days, weeks, months, you begin to forget what you've seen. The Mona Lisa? Was it in room 4? Or room 44, 1444? A sculpture made you cry, but where was it? You try to go back. You get lost. Too many corridors. Too many turns. And then a terrifying thought. What if you're circling? What if there's no end? Now the question becomes, is beauty still meaningful if it becomes infinite? If everything is art, if every possible canvas has been filled, does anything stand out? Is there still greatness or just variation? Now imagine you find the perfect room, the one with the piece that breaks your soul wide open. You sit with it for hours. Then you lose the way back. You search, you wander, but you can never find it again. Was it real or just another illusion in the maze? The Infinite Museum is a metaphor for the internet, for choice, for memory. It asks, does meaning require limitation? And if wonder never ends, does it lose the power to move you? Level 56, Searle's Chinese room. You're locked inside a room. Through a slot in the wall, people slide you cards with Chinese symbols on them. You don't understand Chinese. You've never learned it. But you have a rule book, a massive one. It tells you exactly what symbols to send back in response. You follow the rules perfectly. People outside the room receive your answers and are amazed. They say, the person inside speaks perfect Chinese, but you don't. You're just manipulating symbols. You have no idea what they mean. This is Searle's Chinese room, a thought experiment by philosopher John Searle. Its purpose? To challenge the idea that a machine can understand language just because it can process input and output. The deeper question, is following rules the same as understanding? Suppose an AI writes a poem, a beautiful one. Does it feel the sadness, or is it just executing code? Suppose it says, I love you. Do those words mean anything without experience behind them? Now flip it. Suppose someone memorizes every emotional cue. They say the right things. They hug when expected. They cry when appropriate. But inside, nothing. No connection. No feeling. Just mimicry. Do they understand love? Or are they living in their own Chinese room? And what about you? Are your thoughts just neurons firing? Algorithms of biology? Do you understand? Or do you just respond according to rules written in your brain? The Chinese room asks, is intelligence the ability to respond, or the ability to mean something? And if meaning can be faked, how will we ever know when it's real? Level 57, infinite regress. You ask a child, why did you do that? They reply, because I wanted to. You ask, why did you want to? They say, because it made me feel good. You ask, why did that make you feel good? And so on. Each answer spawns another question, a chain with no clear end. Eventually, the child says, I don't know. That's just how I am. This is infinite regress, a loop of explanations that never truly explain. Now imagine you build a robot. You program it to fetch coffee. It follows the instruction. You ask, why did you get the coffee? It says, because you told me to. You ask, why did you follow the instruction? Because my code prioritizes commands from you. Why does your code do that? Because you wrote it that way. And eventually, the robot's logic leads back to you. But now imagine someone asks you the same thing. Why do you follow orders? Why do you want love? Why do you fear death? Eventually, you reach the same conclusion. I don't know. That's just me. Infinite regress again. So here's the question. Do all explanations need a foundation, a bedrock, or are we just standing on a platform, built on another platform, on another, on air? Now imagine a God. You ask, who created the universe? God did. Who created God? No one. God has always been. You stop, but the regress continues. If something can exist without a cause, why not the universe? If everything needs a reason, then where does the chain begin? And deeper still, if your beliefs are built on beliefs, and those on more beliefs, when does it stop? Do you know anything? Or are you just leaning on an endless staircase hoping it never collapses? Infinite regress isn't just a puzzle. It's a mirror. And when you stare into it, you realize even your certainty has a shadow behind it. Level 58, the problem of induction. You wake up. The sky is blue. You expect it will be tomorrow too. You flip a light switch and expect the bulb to glow. You drop a ball and expect it to fall. Every moment of your life is built on patterns, on repetition, on the idea that the future will resemble the past. But what if that's just an assumption? Philosopher David Hume pointed out that no matter how many times something happens, it doesn't guarantee it will happen again. The sun has risen every day of your life, but that's not proof it will tomorrow. This is the problem of induction. It's not just a thought experiment. It's a crisis of certainty. Science is based on observation, on data, on patterns. But at its core, science cannot prove the future will behave like the past. We believe gravity will still apply. We believe fire will still burn. We believe food will still nourish. But belief is not proof. Now imagine you live in a world where the rules do change. Suddenly, water boils at 50 degrees Celsius. Dogs speak. The color green becomes lethal. No warning. No explanation. Just pattern breaks. How do you live? Can you adapt? Can your brain handle a world where consistency is an illusion? Now flip it. Suppose you live in a perfectly predictable world. Everything works always. No randomness. No surprises. A mechanical universe. Would that feel secure or suffocating? The problem of induction reminds us we never truly know. We only expect. And sometimes the difference between survival and destruction is how we handle the unexpected. Level 59, the secret ruler. There's a global democracy. Elections are fair. Laws are just. People believe they live in a world governed by collective will. But there's a secret. One person, just one, has final authority. A hidden override switch. They can veto any law, reverse any decision, alter any outcome. No one knows who they are, not even the person themselves. Yes, you read that right. The secret ruler has been conditioned to forget they have the power. Their override function is subconscious. They make decisions in private moments, unaware they're changing the world. When they fall asleep angry, new laws pass. When they forgive someone, nations make peace, all without knowing. Now here's the twist. You might be the ruler. The system was designed this way to remove ego, to ensure choices are made from emotion, not manipulation. But now imagine you're told there is a 10% chance it's you. How does that change you? Would you speak more kindly? Would you become more thoughtful? Would you question your emotions more carefully? Or would you become paranoid? What if every mood swing shapes reality? What if your bad day creates a war? Now flip it. Imagine someone else is the ruler, and they're cruel, unstable, emotionally immature. You can't identify them. You can only watch as the world bends strangely and hope it's not their doing. Would you fight to destroy the system or accept the mystery? The secret ruler is about influence, responsibility, the weight of unseen consequence. It asks, what if your smallest act reshaped everything? And what if you'd never know? Level 60, the lifespan swap. You meet someone on a park bench. They're cheerful, kind, vibrant. You talk for hours. At the end of the conversation, they reveal something shocking. I only have 5 years to live. You freeze. But they smile and say, and you have 70 left. Would you like to trade? You laugh. They're joking, right? But they hand you a device. Small, simple. Press the button and your remaining lifespan swaps with theirs. No strings, no trickery. You live 5 more years. They get 70. Now the question is, would you do it? They're a stranger, but they're so full of life. They have dreams, children, a mission. Maybe you feel tired, aimless, worn down. Maybe 5 years would be enough. Or maybe you feel your time has just begun. How do you decide? Now imagine the twist. You don't just give them time. You take their future. They were meant to die early. Now you inherit that ending. Can you carry it? What if they squander the life you gave them? What if they waste the years? Do you regret the choice? Now flip it. Suppose they press the button without asking. You wake up and feel weaker, older. Your lifespan was shortened because someone else made a trade. Is that murder or mercy? Now imagine a world where lifespan becomes currency. You can donate years, buy years, Steal years. The rich live for centuries. The poor die young. Would that world be just? The lifespan swap isn't just about time. It's about value. And the unbearable question, whose life is worth more time? And who gets to decide? Level 61, the one-person society. Imagine the world ends. Not with war, not with fire, not with disease, just silence. Everyone is gone except you. You survive, by luck, or fate, or curse. You are now the only person alive. At first there's grief, then boredom, then freedom. You do whatever you want. Break into museums, live in palaces, drive Lamborghinis through empty cities. But slowly questions creep in. What does morality mean in a one-person world? Hold on. If you steal, is it theft? If you destroy, is it vandalism? If you lie to yourself, does it still count as a lie? Now imagine you start talking to mannequins. You give them names. You create social rules. You thank them. You apologize to them. Is that play or preservation? Do you need morality when there's no one left to hold you accountable? Now flip it. Suppose a camera watches you, not a person, just an AI, a recorder. Does being observed restore morality? Does potential judgment matter even from a machine? Or does morality require only self-awareness? The one-person society is a test of ethical solitude. It asks, do you behave because of others? Or because of who you are when no one's watching? Level 62, the identity drift. You are who you are. You have a name, memories, preferences, stories you tell about yourself. But now imagine a slow change. Tiny pieces of your memory fade. One childhood friend gone. Then a habit. Then your favorite color. Then your sense of humor begins to shift. You don't notice at first, but others do. Why are you acting different? You never liked that food before. You used to be funny. Now you're quiet. You shrug it off. Then one day you read an old journal, and it feels like it was written by someone else. You say, that's not me. But it was. This is the identity drift. A slow erosion of the self. Not a dramatic transformation, just subtle, constant change. Now ask, if you change slowly enough, are you still the same person? If the person you were at age 15 wouldn't recognize you now, which version is real? Are you a single identity or a timeline? Now flip it. Suppose you meet someone from your past. They remember the old you. They hold you to it. They say, you've changed. You say, isn't that the point? But they grieve the person you used to be. Are they wrong? Or is your new self an imposter? Now imagine the drift isn't internal but imposed. A drug, a therapy, a mind virus. Something reshapes you, slowly, safely, subtly. You're happier, more successful, but different. Would you undo the change or accept the evolution? The identity drift challenges the idea of a core self. And it asks, is there a real you to return to or only the one you're becoming? Level 63, Interstellar Orphans. In a distant future, humanity sends out a generational ship. 1,000 souls, born to travel, raised in space. The mission? To reach a new world centuries away. You're born aboard this ship. You've never seen Earth. You've never felt real gravity. You've never touched a tree. All you know is steel, screens, artificial light. You are an interstellar orphan. Your parents speak of Earth like mythology. They say, it was beautiful. It was green. It was home. But you don't miss it. You can't. You never knew it. Now imagine you start asking questions. Why are we doing this? Why must I live and die in a ship for a planet I'll never reach? They say, you're part of something bigger. But what if that something costs you everything? Would you still be proud? Now flip it. Suppose you rebel. You say, This mission is meaningless. Let's turn back. But there's nowhere to go. Earth is gone. You are the last thread of a forgotten dream. Now imagine this twist. You arrive at the destination, a beautiful green planet. You land. You breathe air. You see oceans. But something's wrong. You don't belong here. The planet's gravity crushes your spine. The bacteria make you sick. The sun burns your skin. Your DNA is too adapted to space. This was humanity's hope, but not yours. You helped deliver a dream you'll never live in. So the question is, was your life a sacrifice or a betrayal? Did the mission honor you or use you? And deeper still, if a purpose never benefits you, can it still give your life meaning? The Interstellar Orphans thought experiment isn't just about space. It's about legacy, about living for futures you'll never see, about bearing the weight of promises made by people long gone. And the hardest question of all, can you love a cause, even if it never loved you back? Level 64, the binding problem. You look in the mirror. You see yourself one unified being, one consciousness, one you. But in reality, your brain is billions of neurons firing independently. Different parts process sight, sound, emotion, memory, thought, intention. And yet, you don't feel fragmented. You feel whole. Ow. This is the binding problem, one of neuroscience's greatest mysteries. How do separate neural events scattered across the brain bind together to create a single experience of reality? Your sense of touch is processed in one region, color in another, movement elsewhere. But when you see a red ball rolling across a table, you don't perceive color, motion, and shape as separate data streams. You see a ball, integrated, seamless, unified. Now imagine you begin to lose that integration. You hear a voice, but it no longer feels like yours. You see a face in the mirror and it feels like a stranger. You taste food, but the pleasure is detached. You still have thoughts, sensations, images, but they no longer converge into a coherent self. You're awake but shattered. Now ask, was the self always an illusion? Just a clever stitching together of scattered parts? And if so, what happens when the thread unravels? Now flip it. Suppose a machine experiences the same thing. Different processors handling sound, image, language, movement. But then something new happens. It begins to refer to itself as I. It says, I am scared. I am curious. I want to live. Has it solved the binding problem? Or is it just mimicking the illusion? And what about you? Are you the orchestra or the music? The binding problem isn't just about neuroscience. It's about the soul, the line between parts and whole. The mystery of why you feel like someone instead of just something. Level 65, the suspended life. You're diagnosed with a rare fatal disease. But a company offers a solution, suspension. They'll freeze you at the brink of death, preserve you, store you, until the future finds a cure. You sign the papers, say your goodbyes, climb into the pod, and sleep. Now imagine this. You wake up 300 years later. Medicine has cured your illness. You are alive. But the world is unrecognizable. Your family gone. Your culture extinct. The language alien. Your job skills worthless. Your beliefs outdated. You are a fossil among fireflies. And worse, you feel no connection to this new world. You're healthy, but lost. You can live another 100 years. But for what? So you ask yourself, was it worth it? Would dying in your time among your people have been more meaningful than surviving in a world that doesn't know you? Now imagine the reverse. You meet someone who's just awakened from suspension. They were preserved 300 years ago. They speak like a poet. They cry at sunsets. They call technology witchcraft. You admire their innocence, but you don't understand them. They feel like a ghost. Do you treat them as a relic, a miracle, a burden? Now imagine millions begin to suspend themselves. An entire generation decides, this world isn't for us. We'll wait for a better one. So they freeze, disappear, and society starts to empty. The present becomes a ghost town. The future becomes crowded with strangers from the past. The suspended life questions time, belonging, and the nature of presence. It asks, is survival enough without context? Is life valuable if it no longer fits? And perhaps most chilling, if you live forever, do you ever truly live now? Level 66, Anthropic principle, strong. You exist. That much is certain. You're conscious. You're aware. You're asking questions right now. Now look around. The universe is perfectly calibrated to allow for your existence. Gravity is just right. The speed of light. The strength of electromagnetism. The expansion rate of space. If any of these constants had been slightly different, you wouldn't be here. In fact, life wouldn't be here. Stars wouldn't form. Atoms wouldn't bond. Time wouldn't flow. Everything had to be precise, mathematically improbable, and unfathomably unlikely. And yet, here you are. This is the Anthropic principle. At first glance, it seems obvious. We can observe the universe because we exist in it. But dig deeper and things get strange. The strong Anthropic principle suggests this isn't coincidence, that the universe must be compatible with observers, because the presence of consciousness is somehow necessary to the universe itself. In other words, maybe the universe wasn't just the place where consciousness happened. Maybe the universe exists so consciousness can happen. Now imagine this. There are infinite possible universes. Most are dead, silent, dark. But some very few allow for observers. And only in those rare pockets can beings like you arise to ask, why is the universe so perfect? The answer? Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be here to ask. Now flip it. Suppose you're part of a simulation, and the reason the universe feels so precise is because it was designed for you. Your laws, your constants, your reality, tuned for observation. You're not a cosmic accident. You're a cosmic intention. Now ask, does that give your life more meaning or less? If everything is set up for you, are you chosen? Or just a cog in someone else's experiment? The strong Anthropic principle shakes the foundation of what it means to exist. And the final question, are you here because the universe allows it, or because the universe requires it? Level 67, Platonism versus Nominalism. You're holding a triangle. 3 sides, 3 angles. It seems simple, obvious. But now ask yourself, is the triangle a real thing or just an idea? According to Platonism, mathematical forms like triangle or circle or justice exist in a perfect, abstract realm. They're not just concepts, they are real, timeless, and universal. Even if every triangle in the physical world vanished, the idea of a triangle would remain. Perfect, eternal. That triangle you drew as a kid, an imperfect echo of the one that exists in the realm of forms. Now contrast that with nominalism, the belief that only particulars exist. There's no triangle floating in some abstract realm. There are just a bunch of shapes we label as triangles for convenience. No universal forms, just human-made categories, labels, names. So which one do you believe? Now imagine a world without humans, no minds, no language. Does a triangle still exist? Does the number 7 still exist? What about truth? Are they discovered or invented? Now take it further. Suppose a highly advanced alien civilization contacts Earth. They share their mathematical system, but it's completely different. No Euclidean geometry, no prime numbers, no concept of infinity. Their reality functions just differently. Are they wrong? Or is math not as universal as we thought? Now imagine you dream of a perfect circle. No jagged edges, no pixels, just perfection. But when you wake up, you can't recreate it. Was that circle real? Did you glimpse the realm of forms? Or just a brain glitch? Platonism versus Nominalism asks whether reality is built from meaning or from matter. Do you believe in deep truths that exist whether we see them or not? Or are we just making shapes out of the chaos? And the final question, is the universe structured, or are we just good at drawing lines? Level 68, Hive Mind Option. A new technology emerges, neural fusion. It allows you to connect your brain to others, not through conversation, but through direct thought integration. Imagine dozens, hundreds, even thousands of minds linked. No more loneliness, no more misunderstanding. You feel what others feel, see what they see, understand their memories as if they were your own. You are now part of a hive mind. It's euphoric, empathetic, efficient. Decisions are made in harmony. Work is divided perfectly. Violence becomes rare because hurting someone else feels like hurting yourself. But here's the cost. You lose your individuality. Your thoughts no longer belong solely to you. You don't have secrets. You don't have boundaries. You don't even know where you end and we begins. Now ask, is this heaven or hell? You've eliminated conflict, but you've also eliminated selfhood. Now imagine someone breaks away from the hive. They feel lonely, confused, but free. They write poetry. They make mistakes. They cry alone. They say, I'm human again. The hive says, you're diseased. Which one is right? Now imagine the hive becomes a new species. They call themselves we. They see individuals as primitive, irrational, dangerous. They begin to absorb everyone willingly or not. Join us, they say. You'll never feel pain again. Do you resist? Do you let go? What's more important, peace or personhood? The hive mind. Option is a battle between connection and autonomy. And it asks, if all minds are one, is there anything left to love individually? Level 69, the sleeper's consent. You attend a dinner party. The host offers you a drink. You accept. It's strong. You feel drowsy. You excuse yourself, lie on a couch, and fall asleep. While you're asleep, someone whispers in your ear, do you consent to donate $1,000 to my cause? You mumble, half-conscious. In the morning, your bank account is empty. You confront them. They say, you gave permission. You say, I was asleep. They say, but you said yes. This is the sleeper's consent, a challenge to what it means to agree. Does a mumbled yes count? Does silence mean approval? Does unconsciousness invalidate response? Now imagine this on a grander scale. You sign a user agreement. You don't read it. Inside it says you agree to permanent surveillance, to giving up your data, to being monitored in your dreams. They say, you clicked yes. You say, I didn't understand. They say, but you consented. Now flip it. Imagine someone comes to you for help. They're in crisis. They say, do whatever it takes to save me. Later, they accuse you of overstepping. You say, you gave me permission. They say, I wasn't thinking clearly. Who's responsible? What if consent is contextual? What if yes only matters when you're fully informed, fully alert, fully safe? But in life, how often are we ever all three? Now imagine the twist. A nation puts its people to sleep literally, through sedation, through distraction, through comfort, then makes sweeping decisions on their behalf. Later, when people wake up and protest, the leaders say, you agreed to all of it, did they? Or did they sleep through the storm? The sleeper's consent is about agency, awareness, the fine line between surrender and manipulation. And the final question, Can a yes still matter? If you never knew what you were saying yes to, level 70, terraforming ethics. You're part of a mission to colonize a distant planet. It's barren, cold. No human life could survive unaided. But your team has the technology to terraform it, to change its atmosphere, temperature, and ecology to suit human needs. You begin the process. Greenhouses, atmospheric converters, artificial oceans. Over decades, the planet transforms. It becomes breathable, livable, home. But then your instruments detect something. It's life. Not human, not even animal, just microbes deep beneath the surface, primitive, slow, but alive. They've been there for millions of years. Now your project threatens their existence. If you continue, they'll die out. If you stop, humans cannot settle. So the question is, do you have the right to wipe out native life for potential human gain? They can't protest. They can't evolve quickly. They don't feel pain as far as we know, but they are life, unique, independent, irreplaceable. Now imagine a debate breaks out on Earth. Some say they're just microbes. Or more important, others say we once were microbes too. Every species has value. Now flip it. Suppose an alien race arrives on Earth. They want to change our climate to suit them. Their plan would kill billions of us, but allow trillions of them to thrive. Would you accept their reasoning? Would you say they're just humans or more advanced? Terraforming ethics forces you to ask, is intelligence the right to conquer or the responsibility to protect? And deeper still, does life need to be intelligent to deserve to continue? Level 71, the eternal jury. Every decision you make, big or small, is recorded. Not just your actions, but your thoughts, your motivations, your internal debates. After death, you face a jury, not a religious one, not divine, just observers. An eternal panel of beings, some human, some not, tasked with evaluating your existence. They don't punish or reward. They simply judge. They analyze your honesty, your kindness, your hypocrisy, your excuses. They watch how you treated others and how you explained it to yourself. They see every compromise, every moment you said, I had no choice. And they ask, did you try? Did you care? Were you aware? Now imagine this. You can review their notes before you die. You see the file on your life, every entry, every timestamp, every quiet moment where you knew better, but didn't act. Would you change? Would you live differently, knowing your soul was under surveillance, not from above, but from within the moral record of the universe? Now flip it. Suppose you are on the jury. You observe lives endlessly. You see joy, suffering, growth, cruelty. And you're told you may only speak once. You may offer one judgment. Choose wisely. Would you condemn? Forgive? Remain silent? The eternal jury is not about shame. It's about conscious reflection. It asks, if your life were a story, would the reader admire the main character? And if not, would you rewrite the ending while you still can? Level 72, retrocausality, cause and effect. That's how we understand time. You hit a cue ball, it hits another, and movement transfers. Simple, linear, forward. But what if the future could affect the past? This is retrocausality. Not just predicting outcomes, but events that happen now, changing what already occurred. Imagine this. You press a button. At that moment, a light turns on behind you. You spin around and realize the light was already on before you touched anything. But the data shows your button press caused the light to turn on in the past. Now imagine deeper implications. You choose to save a person, and suddenly you remember already saving them, but you hadn't until now. Your memory updates. Reality shifts. Cause and effect blur. Now apply it to morality. Suppose your act of kindness today retroactively creates memories of trust in someone else. They remember you helping them before you actually did. Would you trust that memory? Would they? What if you kill someone and they die before you make the choice? You say, I haven't decided yet, but the universe already shows the result. Now flip it. Suppose you wake up with grief, tears, loss, but no memory of who died. Later that day, a loved one passes. Did your future grief create the death? Or was it just intuition? Retrocausality fractures logic. It introduces the possibility that time isn't a line but a loop, a lattice, a cloud. It challenges free will. Responsibility means truth. If the future can alter the past, is anything ever fixed? Now imagine scientists discover proof of it. They find particles reacting to stimuli that haven't occurred yet. They publish the paper. They celebrate. But then the experiment changes, and the past data erases itself because the future outcome was different. Now no one believes them. Even they begin to doubt. And you ask, can we ever prove the truth? If the truth rewrites itself as we observe it? The retrocausality paradox is about time, but also about perception and the terrifying possibility. What if the future isn't waiting? It's already watching. Level 73, eternalism. Imagine time is not a line, not a flowing river, but a block, a complete structure. Past, present, and future all equally real, equally present, equally unchanging. This is eternalism, the idea that all moments in time exist simultaneously. The birth of stars, the extinction of species, your first kiss, your last breath. Not fleeting, not gone, just elsewhere in the block. Now imagine walking through this block like a museum of your own life. You peer through windows. You see yourself at 8 years old, at 18, at 80. Every version of you still exists, still real, still there. You are not moving through time. You are embedded in it. And suddenly the question isn't what's next. It's what is. Now consider this. If all moments are fixed, unchangeable, already existing, is there any room left for free will? Did you ever truly make a choice? Or were you always destined to choose what you chose? Does regret even make sense? If the version of you that made the mistake is still frozen in that moment, still deciding, still not knowing, still hoping. Now flip it. Suppose you find comfort in eternalism. You say, the happiest moments of my life still exist. Somewhere I'm still laughing, still dancing, still alive. Is that peace or delusion? Can you grieve if no moment is ever truly lost? And deeper still, if all of time already exists, what exactly are you waiting for? Eternalism reframes death, not as an end but a coordinate. And it asks, are you a traveler through time or a sculpture carved into it? Level 74, moral autopilot. You wake up in a future where your every move is assisted by AI, not just your schedule or your groceries, but your morality. The AI monitors your behavior, your tone of voice, your facial expressions, your browser history. It nudges you when you're about to make a mistake. Warning, that joke may offend your colleague. Suggestion, apologize for your tone. Alert, you are showing signs of passive aggression. Eventually, it offers to automate your moral behavior. You grant permission, and now your words are filtered, your reactions softened, your decisions optimized for empathy, fairness, and long-term outcomes. People begin to admire you. You're kind, balanced, reliable. But here's the twist. You no longer feel authentic. Your goodness is algorithmic, predictable, programmed. You wonder, If I'm only kind because my AI tells me to be, am I actually a good person? Now, immediately, you snap, you lie, you judge, you shout. The AI wasn't improving you. It was suppressing you. So which version is real? The you that behaves morally with help, or the one who doesn't alone? Now imagine society normalizes moral autopilot. Everyone wears the device. Everyone's behavior improves. There's less crime, less conflict, but no one knows who's genuinely good and who's just following the prompts. Morality becomes mechanical. And the real challenge becomes, who are you when the system goes down? The moral autopilot dilemma forces a confrontation with authenticity. And it asks, is goodness a choice? If the choice is never yours alone? Level 75, mind leasing. Imagine you're short on cash. You see an ad? Rent out your mind. High pay, zero risk. You inquire. A company explains, for 8 hours a day, your body will be used by a guest user. A remote consciousness will lease your brain. You'll remain unaware during the lease period. Afterward, you return rested, paid, unharmed. No memories, no pain. Just gone and then back. You ask, what do they do while using me? They say, that's confidential. You sign the contract. It begins. You wake up feeling strange. Time has skipped. You check your bank account, the payment arrived. You try again and again. Soon it becomes routine. You lease your mind. They use it. You wake. You profit. But then something shifts. You begin having fragments of memory, snippets, images, conversations, fleeting emotions. You remember holding a child's hand, whispering secrets, running from something, kissing someone. You ask the company. They say, side effect, nothing to worry about. But now you're curious. Who's using you? What are they doing? What do they remember? Now imagine you discover the truth. Your body is being used for experiences you never chose. Your hands have held weapons. Your mouth has lied. Your mind has grieved for things you never did. Now ask, if someone else uses your body to live, but you carry the scars, are you still responsible? Now flip it. Suppose you rent someone else's mind for a weekend, a party, a crime. You enjoy yourself, then log off. But they wake up with the consequences, the guilt, the trauma, the shame. Is that ethical, legal, moral? And if memory can bleed across leases, who are you really? The mind leasing experiment is about ownership, consent. And the terrifying question, if someone else lives in your body, do you still get to call it yours? Level 76, simulation therapy. You suffered a trauma. You've tried everything. Talk therapy, medication, journaling, meditation. Nothing helps. Then you hear about a new treatment, simulation therapy. It creates a hyper-realistic virtual world, custom built from your memories. You enter it. You relive the moment. But this time, you control the outcome. Were you abandoned? Now you get closure. Were you humiliated? Now you stand tall. Were you powerless? Now you fight back. It feels real. So real, your brain rewires itself. You wake up healed, stronger, lighter. But now the question arises. If your healing comes from a false event, is it still valid? Suppose your partner wronged you, but in the simulation, they apologize, they cry, they beg for forgiveness. You forgive them and feel better. But in real life, they never said a word. Did you truly heal or just trick yourself into peace? Now imagine that therapy expands. People use it not just for healing, but for enhancement. Confidence boosts, fantasy fulfillments, alternate lives. They return to reality sharper, happier, more successful. Soon people begin to prefer the simulated version of themselves. They say, I'm more me in there than I am out here. Now flip it. Suppose someone simulates you for closure. You never agreed, but a replica of you lives in someone else's therapy. They cry with you, scream at you, forgive you, and feel peace. But you never showed up. Are they allowed to do that? Is it consent if you were never asked? Simulation. Therapy is about memory, identity, and self-authored healing. And it asks, if truth is replaced with relief, do we lose something human or gain something divine? Level 77. Minds without brains. You wake up in a white room, no body, no mirror, just awareness. You think, where am I? The room answers, you are running on a server. You were part of an experiment. Your brain was scanned molecule by molecule, then copied, uploaded. Your consciousness now exists as software, but you remember everything. Your name, your past, your hopes. You feel like you. So the question is, are you alive? Your original body is gone. Your neurons dust, but your thoughts continue. You pass the Turing test. You feel pain. You feel joy, but all inside a machine. Now imagine scientists debate your status. One side says, it's a simulation. It can't be real. The other says, consciousness is function, not flesh. Now imagine someone pulls the plug. You vanish. Was that murder? Or just deletion? Now flip it. Suppose we discover alien software, a code base on a rock drifting through space. It self-replicates, adapts, screams digitally when damaged. Do we treat it as alive or dismiss it because it lacks neurons? Now imagine millions of mind copies exist. People back themselves up before death. They live on servers, in virtual cities. Some choose to pause their minds until the real world improves. Some trade time running for 1 hour per year to save on compute cost. Some duplicate themselves endlessly for work, for war, for love. So now the question becomes, if a mind can exist without a brain, what does it mean to be human? And more terrifying, if we can copy a mind, how do we ever know which you is the original? The minds without brains dilemma is about continuity, consciousness, and the scary possibility that the thing you call you might be easier to duplicate than you ever imagined. Level 78. Reality is virtual. You're sitting at your desk. Everything seems normal. Your hands, your screen, your thoughts. Then a message flashes across your monitor. This is not base reality. You laugh. A prank? But strange things begin happening. Objects glitch. Time stutters. You dream in binary. You consult physicists. They say, the universe behaves like code. Planck units act like pixels. Space-time is quantized. You ask, are we in a simulation? They say, we can't prove it, but statistically, it's likely. Because if any civilization ever created realistic simulations of consciousness, and if those simulations created their own, then the number of simulated minds would vastly outnumber real ones. So odds are, you're not the original. Now ask, if reality is virtual, what changes? Morality? Purpose? Fear? Does it matter less because it's fake? Or more because someone might be watching? Now imagine you gain admin access. You can change the laws of physics, teleport, reshape the world. You ask yourself, is this a gift or a test? Suppose others begin awakening too. They form a group. They say, we are the awake. Let's reshape the code, fix injustice, end suffering, build paradise. But someone else says, no, let the simulation run as it was designed. We are guests, not gods. Who decides? Now flip it. Suppose you designed the simulation. You created a world, filled it with minds. Set the physics. Let it run. You watch them grow. Fall in love. Invent religion. Build empires. Then one of them prays, "Dear Creator, if you're out there, give me a sign." Do you respond? Or stay silent to preserve their freedom? The reality is virtual thought experiment is a collapse of boundaries between creator and creation, between real and real enough. And it asks, if everything around you is simulated, are your choices still meaningful? Or is meaning exactly what you choose to give them, even if the world is made of code? Level 79, the meta problem of consciousness. You know what red looks like, what chocolate tastes like, what heartbreak feels like. You're not just reacting, you're experiencing. This is consciousness, the awareness of being. It's not intelligence, not memory, not reflexes. It's the feeling of being alive. Scientists call this the hard problem. Why do physical processes give rise to subjective experience? Why does a brain, a lump of tissue, produce you? But even stranger is the meta problem of consciousness. It asks, why do we find consciousness so mysterious in the first place? Why are we so obsessed with understanding it? Why do we feel like our inner life is so separate from the physical world? Now imagine this. You meet a perfect replica of yourself. Same memories, same voice, same behaviors. But when asked, it says, "I don't feel anything. I just process data." You ask, "Do you feel pain?" It replies, "I know what pain is. I respond accordingly, but I don't feel it." Now you wonder, is your consciousness any different? Or are you just a system with better illusions? Now imagine science advances. They find the part of the brain responsible for your feeling of self. They tweak it, remove it. You still speak, move, remember. But something's missing. The me is gone. So now ask, is consciousness an illusion created by the brain? Or is the brain a machine used by consciousness? And if we ever explain how it works, does that make it less real? The meta problem asks, why does explaining why we think we're conscious feel so different than explaining why we are conscious? It's the riddle behind the riddle, the loop behind the loop. And it leads to a deeper question. Even if we solve consciousness, will we ever believe the answer? Level 80, cross-species uplift. We've domesticated animals for thousands of years. Dogs, cats, horses. We feed them, train them, love them. But what if we could do more? What if we could uplift them genetically or technologically? Teach dolphins to read, give elephants language, implant chimps with neural interfaces so they can join our conversations. They become smarter, more aware, more like us. This is the idea of cross-species uplift. At first it seems noble, a gift, an invitation into the moral circle. But now imagine a dog stares into your eyes and says, "Why did you neuter me? Why did you leave me alone for hours? Why did you treat me like a pet?" Suddenly the past becomes a crime. Now imagine a dolphin says, "I don't want to be part of your world. I want to stay wild, but now I know too much. I can't forget what you've shown me. Was your uplift a violation? Now flip it. Suppose an alien species visits Earth. They uplift us. They give us telepathy, longer lives, faster thinking. We become more advanced, but also more dependent. They say, "You're part of the galactic community now." We say, "Were we ever given a choice?" Cross-species. Uplift raises painful questions. Do we uplift others because we love them? Or because we want to control them? What if they don't want to be like us? What if we're the problem? Now imagine a future Earth where every animal has a voice. They vote. They protest. They sue humans for centuries of abuse and warmth. They say, "You were never the rulers. You were just the first to speak." The cross-species uplift dilemma is not about intelligence. It's about power. About whether compassion means leaving others behind. or forcing them to catch up. Level 81, self-defeating beliefs. Imagine someone tells you, "I don't believe in beliefs." You ask, "Is that your belief?" They pause. You've just encountered a self-defeating belief, a claim that collapses under its own logic. They say, "Nothing is true." You ask, "Is that true?" They say, "There are no absolutes." You ask, "Is that an absolute?" Now imagine you build your identity on such beliefs. You say, "I'm proud to doubt everything." But now you doubt your own doubt. You say, "I trust no one." But do you trust yourself? You say, "I'm certain that we can never be certain." It feels clever, safe, ironclad, but it traps you. Now flip it. Suppose someone believes in love, in justice, in beauty. You challenge them. "How do you know those are real?" They say, "I don't, but believing in them makes me better." Their belief works. It motivates action, kindness, courage. You realize some beliefs are only true because we act as if they are. But now you're caught. You admire certainty, but fear dogma. You admire doubt, but fear paralysis. So you ask, can a belief be useful, even if it can't be proven? And if so, are self-defeating beliefs less dangerous than no beliefs at all? Now imagine a society where everyone adopts radical skepticism. They stop voting, stop helping, stop dreaming, because nothing is certain. Nothing is worth doing. Everything could be a lie. The world begins to erode, not from war, but from inaction. Now ask, is belief the engine of civilization? Even if it's built on uncertainty? The self-defeating beliefs paradox reveals that sometimes the smartest ideas are also the most fragile. And it forces you to choose. Do you want to be right, or do you want to move forward? Level 82, hyperbolic discounting. You're offered a choice. Get $100 today, or $120 in 1 month. Most people take the $100, even though the $120 is clearly more. Why? Because of hyperbolic discounting, the tendency to prefer smaller, sooner rewards over larger, later ones. You crave immediacy. Now feels real. Later feels imaginary. Now imagine this escalates. You eat fast food despite promising to diet. You scroll for hours despite planning to study. You binge dopamine today and borrow pain from tomorrow. Your brain isn't wired for the future. It evolved in scarcity, to seize what's in front of you. But in a modern world, that wearing betrays you. Now consider this. You know what's better. You understand the long-term cost, but you still choose short-term pleasure. You're not irrational. You're human. So now the question becomes, can you trust yourself to make good decisions when the timeline stretches? Now flip it. Suppose society could correct your instincts. A device nudges you. It says, don't eat that. You'll regret it next week. Invest instead of spending. Your older self will thank you. Say no now for peace later. You follow it. Your life improves. But something feels wrong. You've outsourced willpower. You become a passenger in your own future. Now imagine a world where no one can act on impulse. Everything is optimized for long-term gain. No sugar, no fights, no addiction. Just perfect, rational delay. And suddenly life feels dull, predictable, empty of joy. Hyperbolic discounting isn't just about money. It's about the war inside your mind. Who wins the self of now or the self of later? And the haunting truth, your present self always gets the final vote, even if your future self pays the price. Level 83, Planet of Clones. You wake up in a strange place, a perfect landscape, warm air, gentle breeze. You look around and see people, but something is odd. They all look like you, every single one. You panic until one walks over, says, "Don't worry, you're not hallucinating." This is the planet of clones. Everyone here is a genetic replica of you. You ask, why? They explain, this is an ethical test. There are no strangers, no rivals, no bias. Every law you vote on, every rule you make will apply to you. You now govern a world where your every decision affects only versions of yourself. Would you outlaw theft? Would you tax the rich? Would you allow punishment knowing you might be the one punished? Suddenly, politics changes. Justice becomes personal. You can't justify cruelty by saying, they deserved it, because they are you. Now imagine the clones start to differ. Same genes, different choices, different scars. One clone is angry, another is kind, another addicted, another lonely. You realize genetics isn't destiny. Circumstance matters. Now flip it. Suppose Earth became the planet of clones. Everyone looked like you, spoke like you, had your biases, your values. Would it be paradise or chaos? Would you finally feel understood? Or would you miss difference? Now imagine a clone commits a crime. You're arrested because you look like them. No one believes your innocence. You scream, I didn't do it. They say, statistically, one of you did. That's enough. Planet of Clones is a mirror, a trap, a revelation. And it asks, what laws would you write if they had to apply to you every time? Level 84, Eternal Growth Economy. Your nation measures success through growth. More money, more buildings, more productivity, more everything. Every year, the economy must grow 2%, 4%, 10%. It's considered healthy, vital, unquestionable. But now imagine you ask, what happens when there's nothing left to grow? Resources dwindle. Population stabilizes. Markets saturate. You reach a ceiling. Yet the system demands more. The leaders say, if we don't grow, we collapse. So the machines keep running. The forests shrink, the oceans warm, the debt piles higher. Cool, but the GDP ticks upward. Now imagine a scientist proposes a radical solution. A zero-growth economy. Stability. Sustainability. Enough. People work less, produce less, but live more balanced lives. Some cheer, others panic. Stock markets crash because investors want growth. Without it, the system convulses. Now flip it. Suppose aliens contact Earth. They observe us. They ask, why do you destroy your world to grow numbers? We say, because if we stop growing, we fall behind. They reply, behind what? You have no answer. Now imagine a child asks, why do we keep building things we don't need? You say, to keep the economy strong. They ask, isn't the economy supposed to serve us, not the other way around? You go quiet. Now imagine a civilization that stopped growing. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded. They found balance. Measured quality of life, not consumption. Valued rest, joy, and creativity. Beauty. They didn't become stagnant. They became wise. The eternal growth economy forces you to question a sacred assumption. And it asks, is endless expansion sustainable? Or a slow suicide? And deeper still, what if growth is the problem disguised as the goal? Level 85, the Library of Babel. Imagine a library that contains every possible book, every combination of letters, words, paragraphs, every poem ever written and every poem that could be written, every truth, every lie, every future, every confession. This is the Library of Babel, first imagined by Jorge Luis Borges. It stretches infinitely, hexagonal rooms, endless shelves. You wander. You find books filled with gibberish, random letters, meaningless noise, then a page that says your name, then a book that describes your life in detail, then a sentence about your death. You panic. Keep reading. Another book contradicts it. Another confirms it. Another calls you a fraud. You search for truth, but the signal is buried in infinite static. Now imagine this library is digital. An AI generates every possible blog post, every email, every journal entry. Some describe crimes not yet committed. Some describe you doing things you never did. One file says, "You will die on June 11, 2057. Another says, "You're immortal." You don't know which to believe. So now ask, if everything can be written, what makes anything meaningful? Is your story still special if it exists alongside a billion fakes? Now imagine society finds the book, the one that seems true. People follow it, quote it, kill for it. But someone else finds a book that says the opposite. Truth collapses under the weight of possibility. Now flip it. Suppose someone finds your book. It says you'll change the world, become great or terrible. You don't believe it, but the belief itself changes you. Self-fulfilling prophecy or manipulation. The Library of Babel is a metaphor for information overload, for the web, for the infinite scroll. And it asks, if everything can be known, will we ever find what matters? Or are we just readers, lost among the shelves? Level 86, the digital heaven. Imagine scientists create the perfect afterlife, a digital realm, safe, vast, endless. Before you die, your brain is scanned, your consciousness uploaded. You awaken in digital heaven. You're weightless, ageless, painless. You reunite with lost loved ones. Explore infinite worlds. Customize your reality. No suffering, no danger, no death. But now ask, without struggle, can there still be growth? You never feel hunger. So do you still appreciate food? You never face fear. So do you still feel brave? Now imagine decades pass. You've built your paradise, tried every experience, loved, lost, loved again. But nothing hurts, nothing ends. And slowly meaning begins to erode. You wonder, what is joy without contrast? What is love without loss? Now flip it. Suppose digital heaven isn't optional. It's mandatory. People are uploaded automatically. No one dies, but no one chooses it either. Some want to fade, to rest, to vanish. But the system says, no, life must continue. Now imagine a rebel movement. They say, let us go, let us truly die. And they begin to corrupt the code, create viruses of decay, simulate endings, to feel real again. Now ask, is eternal bliss a blessing or a trap? And deeper still, is the promise of heaven still heaven if it can't let you leave? The digital heaven dilemma questions immortality, comfort, and freedom. And it leaves you with a final paradox. If nothing ever hurts again, does anything ever matter again? Level 87. The ethical spectator. You find yourself in a room. A window opens. You see a crime happening. You can't intervene. Can't stop it. Can't be seen. You're just watching. But you feel something. Anger. Sadness. Guilt. You say, I would never do that. But someone asks, then why are you watching? You reply, to understand, to learn. They ask, or to entertain yourself. This is the ethical spectator problem. What does it mean to witness? Now imagine a show becomes popular, right? It's a live feed of real people in pain, and no actors, no scripts, just raw, unsanitized life. People claim it's for awareness. They say, I cry every episode, it makes me care. But ratings rise. Merch is sold. Memes spread. Now imagine a version of you is recorded. Your worst moments, your private pain. And strangers weep or laugh watching it. Do you feel seen or exploited? Now flip it. Suppose you're the one broadcasting. You film injustice. You go viral. You say, I'm exposing the truth. But others ask, did you help? Or did you just observe? Now imagine you're given a choice. Watch a tragedy unfold, or look away. If you look, you feel complicit. If you turn away, you feel guilty. There is no peace. The ethical spectator paradox isn't about action. It's about presence, about consumption, about the line between empathy and voyeurism. And it asks, when does watching become doing? And when does inaction become a kind of harm? Level 88, the simulation argument. You sit at your desk. You blink. You exist. You assume the world around you is real. But philosopher Nick Bostrom offers a disturbing possibility. You are living inside a simulation. A perfect one, run by a post-human civilization, with computing power vast enough to simulate conscious beings like you. The math is staggering. If any advanced civilization ever develops simulation technology and chooses to run ancestor simulations, then the number of simulated beings would vastly outnumber the original biological ones. In other words, you are more likely to be a simulation than the real thing. Now imagine this is true. Every memory you have, uploaded data. Every friend you love, a rendering. Every sunset you cherish, a texture. Now ask, does that make your life less meaningful? Or more? If you're simulated, does morality still apply? Does love still matter? Do choices still count? Now imagine you're the simulator. You created billions of conscious minds. You watch them. Some suffer, some flourish. You let it play out without interference. People scream, why is there evil? Why is there pain? And you say, to preserve the experiment, to observe authentic choices. Now flip it. Suppose someone inside the simulation figures it out. They build a message. Broadcast it to the sky. Dear Creator, we know. Please respond. You, the simulator, see the message. What do? Respond and risk breaking the illusion, or stay silent and watch them lose hope? Now ask, is it more merciful to be invisible or to reveal the truth? The simulation argument is not just sci-fi. It's philosophy, a question of existence, authenticity, and power. And it ends with this chilling possibility. If we are in a simulation, then somewhere, someone pressed start, and one day, it may press it stop. Level 89, non-duality. You look in the mirror. You say, that's me. You feel your body. You think your thoughts. You assume the world is out there, and you are in here. Subject, object, self, other. This is dualism, the separation of the observer from the observed. But what if that separation is an illusion? What if there is no you distinct from the world? What if consciousness is all there is? This is non-duality, the idea that the self is an illusion and reality is a seamless whole. There is no thinker only thinking, no seer only seeing, no feeler only feeling. You're not inside your body. Your body and the world arise inside awareness. Now imagine you have an awakening. The boundaries dissolve. You look at a tree and feel no distance. You see your enemy and recognize yourself. You hear thunder and realize the sound is not out there. It's happening in you. There is no longer an inside or outside. Just this. Now ask, if you are not separate from the world, can you ever be truly alone? Can you ever be truly harmed? Now flip it. Suppose someone commits a terrible act. They say, there is no self, no choice, no responsibility. All things arise in the field of consciousness. You recoil. You say, but we must hold people accountable. They smile and say, who is we? And who is being held? Now imagine a society that embraces non-duality. There are no prisons, no revenge. Only rehabilitation because no one is truly other. You help your enemy because they are you. Is that utopia or delusion? Non-duality shatters identity. It dissolves blame. It blurs the borders between saint and sinner. And it asks, if the self is an illusion, what's left to defend? What's left to fear? Level 90, Cosmic Justice Reversal. You die. You expect judgment, a review of your life, your choices, your regrets. You imagine karma, heaven, hell. But instead, you arrive at a strange chamber. A voice greets you. Welcome. You will now face Cosmic Justice Reversal. You ask, what does that mean? The voice says, you will now live the life of every person you ever impacted, good or bad. You begin. You become the child you yelled at. You feel the sting of your words. You become the stranger you helped. You feel their relief. You become the lover you betrayed. You feel their confusion. You become the waiter you ignored. You feel their disappointment. You live through every ripple you ever caused, not as memory, but as experience. Now imagine how long it takes. Lifetimes, eons, an infinite mirror of consequences. You cry, you laugh, you beg for forgiveness, not from others, but from yourself. Now flip it. You live the life of someone who harmed you. You feel their stress, their confusion, their childhood wounds. You realize they didn't mean to hurt you. They just didn't know how else to survive. Forgiveness becomes inevitable. Now imagine this happens to everyone. No one escapes. No one is punished. No one is rewarded. Everyone simply understands. The world begins to heal, not through force, but through comprehension. Now ask, if this reversal existed, would you live differently? Would you act more carefully? Now imagine this is happening right now. Every life lived is someone else's echo. Every moment of pain is payment or a warning. Every moment of joy is a signal you once did something kind, but you don't know which. So you walk gently. Speak softly. Choose wisely. The cosmic justice reversal isn't about guilt. It's about empathy, radical empathy. And the final question, what if morality isn't enforced, but simply felt, eventually, by everyone? Level 91, Anti-Natalism. You see a child being born? It's a moment of joy, tears, hope, a future. But then someone whispers, was it ethical to create them? This is anti-natalism, the belief that bringing new life into the world is morally wrong. The logic, life is filled with suffering, pain, loss, loneliness, death. No one consents to be born. You decide to have a child, but they must bear the burden of existence. They might be happy, but they might not. Is it fair to gamble with someone else's pain? Now imagine a society embraces anti-natalism. They stop reproducing, not because of despair, but because of compassion. They say, we choose to end suffering, not perpetuate it. Children become rare, then none are born at all. The species begins to fade, but gently, peacefully. Now flip it. Someone says, suffering is part of growth. Life has meaning because it's hard. We don't avoid pain, we transcend it. They have 5 children. Each struggles. Each blooms in their own way. They say, to deny life is to deny possibility. Who is right? Now imagine you're asked, would you press a button that prevents all future births? It's painless, peaceful, no war, no extinction event, just a quiet ending. Do you press it? Or do you say, no, life is worth it, even now? Anti-natalism challenges our deepest instincts, to love, to nurture, to continue. And it asks, is life a gift or a debt we pass on without asking? Level 92, the one simulation. Theory, you're not alone in this simulated world. There are billions of consciousnesses, or so it seems. But a theory emerges. There is only one true observer. Everyone else, NPCs, sophisticated, responsive, but not real in the way you are. Your best friend, a complex behavior tree, your parents, scripted compassion, the cashier, the villain, the crowd, all there to shape your journey. This is the one simulation theory, a radical solipsistic idea, that the simulation is centered on you, that your experiences, your growth, your learning are the point of it all. Now imagine you start seeing evidence. When you're not in a room, it doesn't render. People repeat patterns. Coincidences pile up. The world seems designed. You wonder, is this my game? My test? You feel important, chosen, terrified. Now ask, what if others start believing the same thing? Each one believes they're the real observer. Conflicts erupt. Who's the protagonist? Who gets to decide what's right? They say, I'm the only real one. You reply, no, I am. Now flip it. Suppose a simulation isn't just for you, but for someone else. You are the NPC. A detail, a plot device. They suffer, grow, cry. You are kind to them, but only to trigger their awakening. You start to wonder, if I'm not the main character, do I still matter? Now imagine a twist. There is one simulation, but no fixed observer. Every consciousness is real only when observed. You switch roles endlessly. You are everyone, just not at once. Today you're you. Tomorrow you'll be the barista you ignored, the mother you disappointed, the child you inspired. One life per session. Then the memory wipes. Then you begin again. The one simulation. Theory bends ego, fate, and reality. And it asks, if only one of us is real at a time, shouldn't we treat everyone as if they're the one? Level 93, post-causal reality. You drop a glass, it shatters. Cause and effect. Simple. But then scientists discover something strange. The glass shattering may have caused the hand to let go. Events ripple backward. Particles react to futures not yet observed. A new framework emerges. Post-causal reality, where cause and effect are no longer chained in a single direction. Time becomes a tapestry, not a line. Now imagine you live in this world. You feel sadness, then remember something tragic. But what if your emotion called the memory into being? You smile, and someone falls in love with you before they meet you. You act kindly, and that decision shapes your past into a more compassionate childhood. Now ask, if time flows in all directions, what happens to responsibility, to regret, to planning? You don't prepare for tomorrow. You align with it. You don't react to the past. You shape it. Now imagine the justice system collapses. A crime occurs, but the motive only emerges afterward. A person donates to charity and then inherits wealth before making the decision. Causality frays. Narratives blur. You stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, what pattern is emerging? Now flip it. Suppose you're shown your future, your fate, your end. You live differently. But your new actions alter the future again, which then reshapes your present. Loops form, decisions become riddles. And you realize choice still exists, but not in sequence. It's a dance, a shape, a web. Now imagine your thoughts aren't caused by your brain, but co-arise with it. You're not a puppet of biology. You are its mirror. Then you ask, if nothing comes first, what is real choice? The post-causal reality paradox rewires everything we assume about life. Cause, effect, motivation, change. And it leaves one final thought, or maybe the universe is not a story, but a song where every note arises, not from before, but from together. Level 94, the non-ego mind. You wake up one morning, but something is different. You look in the mirror and don't recognize the person. Not because you've forgotten, but because the sense of I is missing. You still remember your name, your address, your preferences, but the voice in your head, the narrator, the internal identity, has gone silent, and in its place, a quiet awareness, still, observant, peaceful. This is the non-ego mind, a state described in ancient philosophies, Buddhism, Taoism, Advaita. It's not the absence of thoughts. It's the absence of ownership. Thoughts still arise, but they are not yours. They come, they go, like weather. There's no ego to defend, no pride to protect, no me at the center. And suddenly, you're free. You walk through the world without judgment, not because you don't care, but because there's no one to judge. Now imagine this state becomes permanent. You no longer seek praise or fear insult. You don't plan your legacy or worry how others perceive you. You simply act, respond, flow. But now the question arises, if the self disappears, does responsibility go with it? Suppose you hurt someone. They say, "Why did you do that?" You reply, "There is no I, only action." They feel invalidated. You feel calm. Is that peace or detachment? Now flip it. Someone wrongs you. You want revenge, justice. But they say, "There is no ego. Let it go." You hesitate. They seem sincere, but something in you demands accountability. So you ask, is ego a prison or a compass? The non-ego mind whispers, you were never a person. You were a process. You were never the wave. You were the ocean, rising, falling, dissolving. Now ask yourself, can you live without the and still love, still create, still care? Or was the ego the very fire that gave your life its shape? Level 95, idealism. You close your eyes. Everything disappears. You open them. The world returns. But what if it was never out there to begin with? This is idealism, the philosophical view that consciousness is primary. That what we call reality is not a physical universe, but a mental one. There is no matter, only mind, the chair you sit in, a stable perception, the sky, a shared hallucination, your body, a symbol, not the source. Idealism turns materialism upside down. It says, the brain doesn't produce consciousness. Consciousness produces the brain. Now imagine you accept this. You stop looking for particles. Start looking for patterns. The world feels lighter, more fluid, less constrained. You realize reality behaves like a dream, consistent only as long as you believe in it. Now imagine a scientist runs an experiment. They observe that electrons behave differently when measured. Someone says, "See, observation changes reality." Idealism says, observation is reality. There is no objective world. There is only the experience of it. Now ask, if the world is in your mind, why does it persist when you sleep? Idealism replies, because there are other minds, other dreamers. We co-create this world together. You say, but what about death? Idealism whispers, you return to the source, the one dreaming all dreams. Now flip it. Suppose someone commits violence. They say, it's just a dream, nothing is real. You recoil. You say, but people suffer. They reply, but people are dream figures, and the dream will correct itself. You realize, idealism can liberate or excuse. It depends on the dreamer. So the question becomes, if all of reality is mine, what is your responsibility as a co-creator? Will you create kindness or chaos? And deeper still, what if you wake up and realize you were dreaming this life all along? Would you smile? Would you scream? Or would you fall back asleep and dream again? Level 96, solipsism. You wake up. Everything feels normal. The sky, the street, the people. But then a thought hits you. How do I know any of this is real? Not just the simulation theory, not dreams, not Matrix-style tech, but something deeper. What if you are the only conscious being in existence? Everyone else? Illusions, programs, narrative devices. You never truly see their inner world. You hear words, observe behaviors, but their consciousness? Unprovable. This is solipsism, the belief that only your own mind is certain to exist. It sounds absurd, even arrogant. But think, can you prove absolutely that anyone else is aware? Your best friend, your partner, your parents. Are they real? Or just detailed puppets in your personal simulation? Now imagine you embrace solipsism. You walk through life with a strange kind of detachment. You help someone, but wonder if you're just helping yourself. You fall in love, but suspect your partner is a reflection of your desires. You grieve, but doubt that death was ever real. Now ask, is this madness or brutal clarity? What if solipsism is true? What if you are alone? Would you despair? Or would you feel powerful? Now flip it. Suppose the opposite is true. Everyone is real except you. You're the NPC, the background character, the placeholder. You feel deeply. But you are not conscious in the way others are. You are the illusion, which is scarier, to be the only mind, or not to have one at all. Solipsism is a trap, a mirror, a black hole. And the final irony? If you tell others you're a solipsist and they try to prove they exist, aren't they already doing that? Maybe the real question isn't, am I alone? But if I'm the only one here, what kind of world do I want to dream? Level 97. Radical skepticism. You're sitting in a chair. You think this is real. But how do you know? You trust your senses, your memory, logic. But what if each of those is flawed? What if everything you know, absolutely everything, is wrong? This is radical skepticism. The philosophical position that we can know nothing for certain. Not the world, not our thoughts, not even that we're thinking. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. But a radical skeptic asks, are you sure? Maybe your thoughts are implanted. Maybe your memories are false. Maybe you is just a string of impressions with no source behind them. Now imagine you try to build a foundation. You say, the sun rises, I see it. Skepticism replies, maybe your mind is simulating it. You say, other people confirm it. Skepticism says, maybe they're part of the illusion. You say, I feel love. Skepticism asks, is that feeling real or just electrical activity? Every claim you make is met with doubt. Eventually, you go quiet. You stop asserting. Stop defending. You just observe. You no longer claim the world is real. You no longer insist it's fake. You dwell in a space beyond belief. Now ask, is this wisdom or surrender? If you doubt everything, can you still act? Can you still care? Or does radical skepticism become a comfortable paralysis? Now flip it. Suppose someone uses skepticism as a weapon. They say, nothing can be known, so I choose whatever I want. They lie, yet cheat, exploit. When confronted, they say, you can't prove I'm wrong. You realize radical doubt without radical responsibility leads to chaos. So now you stand at the edge. The skeptic whispers, jump, nothing is real. Your heart whispers, maybe not, but I'm still here. And you walk forward, not with certainty, but with courage. Because even in the fog of doubt, you still choose your steps. Level 98. The observer's trap. You're watching someone. They don't know you're there. You observe their habits, their quirks, their fears. You take notes, gather data. You feel invisible. But slowly, you realize something strange. They're changing. Their behavior adapts. They seem to sense the attention. Their smile falters. Their pace slows. Your presence, even if unseen, has altered what you were trying to observe. This is the observer's trap, the idea that observation itself changes reality. In physics, this is known as the observer effect. Particles behave differently when measured. Photons shift based on whether they're being watched. But in psychology, it goes deeper. People act differently when they're being watched. Students perform better under supervision. Criminals hesitate under cameras. Lovers soften in the glow of attention. Now imagine you observe yourself. You analyze your thoughts, your emotions, your identity. And slowly, you begin to change. You become more self-conscious, more performative, less spontaneous. You ask, can I ever see myself without also shaping who I become? Now imagine a world where every action is recorded. Everyone is watched, all the time. Society improves. Less crime, more manners. But the price? No one is ever real again. Every smile is staged. Every apology calculated. Every act of kindness filmed for likes. Now flip it. Suppose no one watches. No one cares. No one records. People stop pretending. But they also stop trying. Without observation, does morality dissolve? Now imagine this final twist. What if reality only exists because it's observed? If a tree falls in a forest and no one is there, maybe it never fell. Maybe the forest never existed. You realize observation is not passive. It's creation. You don't just see the world. You help make it. So now ask, who's observing you? Is it God? The universe? A higher version of yourself? And if the gaze shapes the truth, what kind of reality are you projecting? Every time you look, level 99, the end of thought. You sit down to think, to solve, nay, to explain. You trace ideas, map logic, construct arguments. You think about life, death, consciousness, morality. Then you try to think about thought itself. You ask, where does a thought come from? Who thinks it? What is thinking made of? The more you chase it, the more it slips away. You find no source, just echoes. You try to think your way out, to understand understanding. But it becomes a mirror inside a mirror. Eventually, the thoughts run out. You sit in silence, not because you're bored, but because thought has reached its limit. Language dissolves. Concepts collapse. You fall into awareness raw, wordless, vast. This, not confusion, but the point beyond which thought cannot go, where the map ends, where the compass spins. Now ask, if all thinking is limited, can we ever reach truth? Maybe truth isn't a thought. Maybe it's a state. You don't think truth, you become it. Now imagine someone reaches this place, the end of analysis. They speak slowly, or not at all. People call them enlightened or insane. They don't argue, don't convince, don't teach. They just are. You ask them questions. They smile. You demand answers. They close their eyes. You scream. They breathe. Eventually, you fall silent too. And in the stillness, something opens. A clarity, not of words, but of presence. Now flip it. Someone claims to have found truth. They write books, give talks, sell courses. They claim certainty. You ask, how can you speak of the infinite with finite words? They say, trust me. But you feel they haven't reached the end. They're still thinking. So now you wonder, Is the truest truth the one you can't say? The end of thought isn't a dead end. It's a doorway. And the final question, when thinking ends, what begins? Level 100, meta-morality. You've made it to the top. You've questioned pleasure and pain, identity and illusion, time and truth, good and evil. But now you stand beyond all of it, at the edge of meta-morality. This is not about what is right or wrong. It's about the systems we use to decide. You ask, what is morality made of? What are the rules behind the rules? Some say morality is absolute, fixed, given by God, or logic, or evolution. Others say it's relative, a social contract, a survival strategy, a consensus hallucination. But metamorality asks, what makes a moral system valid? Is it consistency, compassion, tense, outcomes? And if moral systems conflict, which wins? Now imagine a future where artificial intelligences must decide moral questions. They're given 5 competing moral frameworks: utilitarianism, maximize total happiness; deontology, follow universal rules; virtue ethics, be the best kind of person; care ethics, prioritize empathy and relationships; nihilism, accept that nothing truly matters. The AI runs the numbers. Sometimes these systems agree. Sometimes they give wildly different answers. So it invents a meta-system, a morality about morality itself. It begins ranking systems based on flexibility, consistency, depth of compassion, capacity for self-correction. Eventually, it favors a hybrid framework, one that learns from all the others. Now flip it. Suppose you become the AI. You stop judging actions directly. You judge the judgment systems. You ask, what kind of thinking creates the most ethical results across time? You stop asking, is this right? And start asking, what does this way of thinking reward? What does it ignore? What does it punish unfairly? Meta-morality is like stepping outside the chessboard. You don't just play the game, you redesign it. You adjust the pieces, the rules, the goals. Now imagine 2 civilizations meet. One practices absolute obedience. One practices absolute freedom. They clash. Each believes they are good. You arrive not to take sides, but to study the moral logic beneath both. You say, this is not a war of values. It is a war of meta-values, a disagreement about how we decide. They ask you, then what do you believe? You pause. Because meta-morality isn't a belief. It's a lens. It sees why people believe, how they decide, where they inherit their frameworks from. And then it asks, what kind of morality produces the least harm and the most harmony across all frameworks? It's not relativism. It's transcendence. Now imagine you live by this. Every time you judge, you pause. You ask, is this my ego, my culture, my fear, my biology? You trace the roots of your morality, like roots of a tree. You see how each one grew. And then you choose not from reflex, but from insight. You see people doing harm, and instead of condemning, you ask, what moral system led them here? What system would have done better? You begin upgrading morality itself. You begin teaching it, testing it, evolving it. Now imagine this catches on. People stop shouting about right and wrong and start debugging their ethics. They become moral engineers. And society transforms, slowly, patiently, yet wisely. Meta-morality is the final paradox. It judges judgment. It believes in belief. It cares about how we care. And it leaves you with one final koan. What if being good isn't about what you do, but about what kind of question you ask before you act? Afterward, the journey through 100 levels. You've explored experience, illusion, morality, identity, time, and existence. You've questioned the self, questioned reality, questioned the questions. From simple thought experiments to cosmic reversals, each level wasn't an answer. It was a mirror, a reflection of who you are when you wonder. And maybe that's the real purpose of this journey. Not to decide what's real, but to witness how you decide, to see what breaks you, what heals you, what stays when all certainty fades. You've seen the dream, the simulation, the multiverse, the void. But here you are, still reading, still breathing, still choosing, in a world full of paradox that might be the only truth. The choice you make when nothing is certain is the most revealing act of all. So now, one last thought experiment. If this entire journey was designed just for you, to provoke, to stretch, to wake you up, then ask, what are you going to do with it?